For thousands of years, humanity has gazed at the remnants of ancient civilizations, structures and artifacts that defy explanation, whispering secrets from a time long past. What do they reveal about us? And what truths have we overlooked? From the construction of impossible monuments to the puzzling disappearance of entire cultures, we are left with questions that refuse to be answered. How could they have known? What were they trying to tell us? Join us as we unravel 3 hours of bizarre archaeological mysteries that still leave the world stunned, searching for answers that might change everything we thought we knew about our past. Perched high on the rugged cliffs of Iran's northwest Zagros Mountains, the Hasanlu stone citadel looms like a forgotten sentinel over the landscape. Its walls, though weathered by millennia of wind and rain, still hold an undeniable grandeur, a silent testament to the ancient people who once called this place home. Discovered in the early 1950s, this archaeological site has offered a glimpse into a civilization that flourished over 2,500 years ago during the Iron Age. Yet, despite years of excavation, many of its secrets remain elusive. The Citadel was once a thriving city, a fortress that protected its inhabitants from the harsh conditions and rival tribes that surrounded them. The site itself is strategically positioned, atop a hill that offers sweeping views of the valleys below, perfect for both defense and control. The towering stone walls, some reaching up to 6 meters in height, are a reminder of the monumental effort required to create such an imposing structure. And yet, there is something more, something intangible, about Hasanlu that has kept archaeologists and historians coming back, year after year. Inside the Citadel, a wealth of artifacts has been uncovered: ceramics, weapons, jewelry, and intricate metalwork, each piece offering valuable insight into the daily lives and technological advancements of the people who once inhabited it. Among the most captivating finds, however, is a single object, the Hasanlu gold bowl. Found in the ruins of a burned building, this small, delicate item, engraved with intricate depictions of human figures and animals, suggests that the people of Hasanlu had not only advanced artistic skills but were also deeply connected to symbolism and ritual. The surrounding evidence paints a picture of a sophisticated society, one with complex trade networks and rich cultural exchanges. Yet, as much as we have learned, the true nature of Hasanlu remains shrouded in mystery. The city was abandoned in the 9th century BC, seemingly without explanation. There is no record of any catastrophic event that would account for its sudden collapse, no known enemy that invaded or destroyed the citadel. What could have caused such a significant and abrupt end to this flourishing civilization? One of the most intriguing features of the site is the burn layer, the charred remnants of a violent conflagration that consumed much of the city. Fire, it seems, was the final act for Hasanlu. But was it the result of an invasion? Or perhaps an internal uprising? Some scholars suggest that the burn marks indicate a siege, with the attackers setting fire to the city's defenses as they overwhelmed the inhabitants. Others propose more speculative theories, that the fire was caused by an astronomical event, such as a comet or meteor strike, which led to widespread panic and destruction. And then there are the theories that delve into the more extraordinary, perhaps even fringe, explanations. Some have wondered if the destruction of Hasanlu was linked to ancient catastrophes that have been lost to history, events that have left no trace in the written record, but might still be lurking in the uncharted depths of our collective past. Could there be a connection between the fire at Hasanlu and other ancient sites that share similar patterns of sudden collapse? Or might there be something more unusual at play, a force of nature or an ancient weapon beyond our comprehension? Despite the centuries of research, these questions remain unanswered. The exact reasons for the fall of Hasanlu and the identity of its people are still shrouded in mystery. It is a puzzle that challenges our understanding of the past, leaving us to wonder how much of our history has been erased, hidden, or forgotten by the ravages of time. And, perhaps more importantly, what else might be waiting to be uncovered at Hasanlu, or in the forgotten corners of the world's ancient cities? As the sun sets over the Zagros Mountains, casting long shadows across the ruins, one is left with a lingering thought. The story of Hasanlu is not yet over. The questions that surround this ancient citadel continue to beckon, inviting us to look deeper and wonder what might still lie buried, waiting for its secrets to be revealed. As we leave the jagged ancient stone walls of Hasanlu behind, we travel eastward, to another site where the past's mysteries remain as enigmatic as ever. Rajgir, in the heart of modern-day India. Here, amidst the green hills of Bihar, stand the Cyclopean walls, massive, megalithic structures that have long puzzled those who have come to study them. These towering walls, constructed of enormous blocks of stone, appear like remnants of an ancient fortification, yet their true purpose remains one of the great unresolved questions of archaeology. The walls of Rajgir are imposing, not only in their size, but also in the mystery they evoke. Stretching along the slopes of the surrounding hills, the walls are believed to have been built during the 6th century BC, though the exact period is still debated. Some say they were erected during the reign of King Bimbisara, one of India's most significant rulers. Others suggest they are far older, possibly predating even the rise of the Maurya Empire, whose foundations are firmly rooted in this region. What we know for certain, however, is that these walls defy simple explanation. The blocks themselves, some weighing several tons, are precisely cut and fit together with an uncanny accuracy. No mortar was used in their construction. Instead, the massive stones are arranged in such a way that even after centuries of weathering, they remain steadfast, holding their shape as though designed by a forgotten hand. The construction methods employed in Rajgir are unlike those of any known ancient civilization, raising the question, how could a people of this era possess the knowledge and resources to create such a monumental feat of engineering? At first glance, these walls appear to be nothing more than remnants of a fortification, perhaps part of an ancient defensive system. Yet, when viewed in detail, their layout begins to take on a more puzzling character. The walls seem to have no clear pattern of entrance or exit, and their construction appears incomplete in places, as though some crucial part of the design was never fully realized. Could it be that these walls were intended to enclose something far more sacred, or perhaps even something more mysterious, than a mere military structure? Historians and archaeologists are divided on the purpose of the Rajgir walls. Mainstream theories suggest that they were constructed to protect the nearby ancient city of Rajgir, once a major center of Buddhist culture and the capital of the Magadha kingdom. The area was of strategic importance, and it would make sense that such a wall would be built to defend its rulers and people. Yet, some scholars point out that the walls do not align with the known patterns of ancient fortifications, which were often designed to create clear boundaries with gates for access. Why, then, the absence of a gate? And why the seemingly arbitrary placement of the walls, stretching along the hills without any obvious direction or design? This has led some to propose more speculative theories. Could the walls have been built for a religious purpose? Rajgir, after all, was an important pilgrimage site, sacred to both Buddhists and Jains. Perhaps the walls were intended to mark a boundary between the sacred and the profane, creating a space where spiritual rites could be performed away from the rest of society. Could they have been part of a ritualistic or cosmological design, aligned with the movements of the stars or the sun, similar to other ancient structures found around the world? In fact, the location of the Rajgir Cyclopean walls has led some to make comparisons with the great stone sites of Europe, such as Stonehenge and the pyramids of Egypt, sites that are similarly shrouded in mystery. Some fringe theorists even suggest that the walls could have been part of an ancient global network of megalithic sites, with a purpose lost to time. Could there have been an advanced, but now forgotten civilization that spanned continents, leaving behind enigmatic structures like these as their only legacy? And if so, what knowledge was lost in the collapse of that civilization? Another element that adds to the intrigue of Rajgir's walls is the peculiar nature of their construction. Unlike other ancient stone structures that were built using a combination of laborious human effort and basic tools, the precision and scale of the Cyclopean walls suggest that the builders had access to a level of craftsmanship and knowledge far beyond what was traditionally thought to be possible at the time. Some researchers have even raised the possibility that the methods used to cut and shape the stones were not of the same era as the walls themselves, hinting at the possibility of a much earlier, more advanced civilization. Adding to the mystery are the various legends surrounding Rajgir itself. The area is steeped in myth, with stories dating back to the time of the Buddha, who is said to have meditated in the caves above the city, contemplating the mysteries of life. Could there be a deeper connection between the physical walls and the spiritual significance of the region? The idea that these walls may have served not just as a defense or boundary, but as a tangible manifestation of a metaphysical or cosmic principle, is a tantalizing thought that challenges conventional interpretations of ancient history. Despite decades of excavation and research, the true purpose of the Cyclopean walls remains unresolved. The walls themselves stand as a testament to the ingenuity of their builders, but also as an enigma that seems beyond our understanding. What drove the people of Rajgir to create such an ambitious and mysterious structure? Was it an act of defense, a religious gesture, or something more? And what do these unanswered questions tell us about the civilizations that once thrived in this region? As the shadows grow long over the hills of Rajgir, the walls stand silently, their secrets buried in the stone. Perhaps they are waiting for us to unlock the mysteries they hold, or perhaps the answers lie hidden forever, lost to the passage of time. Whatever the truth may be, the Rajgir Cyclopean walls remind us that there is still much we do not know about the past, and much that still calls us to explore the forgotten corners of the ancient world. As we leave behind the ancient walls of Rajgir and their mysterious origins, we journey further into the heart of Central Asia, where another set of ruins, equally enigmatic and perplexing, lies hidden beneath the desert sands of modern-day Tajikistan. This site is known as Sarazm, and it stands as one of the oldest urban centers of the ancient world, its stone complex offering an insight into a lost civilization that predates many well-known ancient cultures. Discovered in 1976, Sarazm is now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, though it remains shrouded in mystery. The site's layout, with its carefully planned streets, drainage systems, and public spaces, suggests that this was a thriving city built with a clear purpose and considerable foresight. Yet, the identity of its inhabitants and the full extent of their civilization remain elusive. The stone complex of Sarazm, located at the crossroads of ancient trade routes, dates back to around 3000 BC, well before the rise of the great empires of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley. In its prime, Sarazm was not merely a collection of scattered huts or isolated communities. Rather, it was a sophisticated urban center, an organized and bustling hub of commerce, culture, and innovation. Excavations have revealed streets lined with large rectangular stone blocks, many of which were used to construct monumental buildings. These buildings were likely multifunctional, serving as both residences and places of administration or trade. The stones used to build Sarazm structures are large and meticulously carved, suggesting that the people of Sarazm possessed not only advanced knowledge of stoneworking, but also an understanding of urban planning that would not seem out of place in later civilizations. But as with many ancient ruins, the more we uncover, the more questions arise. Who were the people who built Sarazm? What were they seeking to accomplish with such an ambitious urban project? One of the most striking features of the Sarazm stone complex is the presence of what appears to be a form of writing, or at least symbols etched into the walls of certain buildings. These inscriptions, though rudimentary, suggest that the people of Sarazm may have had a written language, an idea that was once thought to be a development reserved for more advanced cultures, like the Sumerians or Egyptians. The symbols themselves remain undeciphered, adding to the enigma. Could these markings be a form of communication, or perhaps some type of ritualistic inscription meant to invoke protection or favor from the gods? In addition to the stones and inscriptions, other discoveries at Sarazm hint at a level of technological and artistic sophistication that further complicates our understanding of its inhabitants. Tools made from obsidian, copper, and even gold have been uncovered, along with intricately crafted pottery and jewelry, suggesting that the people of Sarazm were skilled artisans and had access to valuable resources that may have been traded across the vast reaches of ancient Central Asia. This, in turn, raises further questions about the scope of their trade networks. How far did these networks extend? Were they in contact with distant cultures that we have yet to discover? Despite these impressive discoveries, one of the most puzzling aspects of Sarazm is the absence of any known written records that might explain its rise and fall. Unlike the cities of Mesopotamia or the Nile Valley, where we have extensive written histories, Sarazm's story remains mute, locked in the stone and the silence of the surrounding desert. It is almost as though the city was forgotten, or perhaps deliberately abandoned, without leaving behind any narrative of its people or their fate. Why would such a thriving city, with its advanced technology and trade networks, disappear without a trace? Some scholars suggest that Sarazm may have been part of a broader network of early Bronze Age cities, each with its own role in the development of early human civilization. Others propose that the site's location, near a major river system, could have been a key factor in its prosperity, and perhaps its downfall. Could the river have shifted course, leaving the city stranded? Or was the decline of Sarazm due to something more abrupt, perhaps a natural disaster or invasion? Adding to the mystery are the more speculative theories that have arisen around the site. Some have pointed to the similarity between Sarazm's architecture and that of other ancient stone structures, such as those found in the Zagros Mountains and beyond. Could there be a connection between these distant sites, some shared cultural or technological link that we have yet to uncover? Could Sarazm have been part of an early civilization that was somehow connected to the distant and mysterious people of the Indus Valley, or even to the builders of the megalithic structures found across Europe? Then there are those who have proposed even more extraordinary possibilities. Could the stone complex of Sarazm have been built by a group with knowledge of advanced techniques that were later lost to history, knowledge that we may be only now beginning to rediscover? Could the city have had a function beyond mere trade or administration, perhaps tied to spiritual or astronomical rituals, much like the stone circles of Europe or the sacred sites of Mesoamerica? In the absence of concrete evidence, these theories remain speculative. But the very fact that Sarazm continues to defy easy explanation speaks to a deeper mystery, one that raises as many questions as it answers. Was Sarazm merely a product of its time, a city that rose and fell as many others did, or was it something more? Could its sophisticated urban planning, enigmatic inscriptions, and advanced craftsmanship be the remnants of a civilization far older and more complex than we've yet understood? As we stand amidst the ruins of Sarazm, surrounded by the echoing silence of the desert, the city's true story remains a tantalizing puzzle, waiting to be unraveled. What exactly happened to the people who built this remarkable city? And what secrets still lie buried beneath the sand, waiting for the next generation of explorers to uncover? As we leave behind the ancient stone structures of Sarazm, we cross the vast, shifting landscapes of time and geography to arrive at a place where the land itself seems to pulse with ancient energy, a place known as Thornborough Henges. Located in the rolling hills of North Yorkshire, England, these prehistoric earthworks are part of one of the most intriguing and puzzling sites in the British Isles. Set against the backdrop of a landscape rich in archaeological significance, the Thornborough Henges are more than just a collection of earth mounds. They are a window into a world that existed long before written history, a world whose purpose and meaning remain elusive. At first glance, the Thornborough Henges might seem deceptively simple. 3 vast circular earthworks, each surrounded by wide, deep ditches, linked together in a pattern that echoes across the centuries. Yet, it's precisely this simplicity that makes them so enigmatic. These henges, which date back to around 2500 BC, were likely used for ceremonial or ritualistic purposes. But exactly what took place within their boundaries is a mystery that continues to baffle researchers to this day. The size of the henges is astonishing. The outermost circle, known as the Thornborough Ring, measures over 400 feet in diameter, roughly the size of a football field. The 2 smaller rings inside it are equally impressive, though their exact purpose is still unclear. What's most striking, however, is the alignment of the henges. Set out in a perfect line, these 3 structures seem to follow some larger cosmic order, as though the builders of Thornborough Henges were attempting to establish a connection between the earth and the heavens. But what could that connection have been? The alignment of the henges has led some to speculate that they were designed to mark significant celestial events, such as the solstices or the lunar cycles. In fact, many ancient henges across the British Isles, like Stonehenge, have been found to align with the movements of the sun and moon. Could Thornborough have been a site of astronomical observation, a place where ancient peoples gathered to chart the skies and honor the turning of the seasons? This theory, while compelling, is not without its challenges. The precise nature of the astronomical alignments at Thornborough is still debated, and some scholars believe that the henges may have served purposes that were more spiritual or ritualistic in nature, unrelated to celestial events altogether. As with many ancient sites, the mystery deepens when we consider the materials used to construct the henges. Unlike Stonehenge, which is renowned for its massive stones, Thornborough's henges were created using earth and timber. Yet, despite this difference in construction, the site shares a number of similarities with other megalithic monuments across Europe. Were the builders of Thornborough influenced by the same cultural currents that gave rise to other great stone circles and ceremonial sites? Or were they working within a completely different tradition, one that has yet to be fully understood? Another puzzling aspect of the Thornborough Henges is the lack of surrounding evidence for a permanent settlement. Unlike other ancient ceremonial sites, which often have nearby villages or towns that provide context for their use, Thornborough appears isolated in a landscape that, for much of its history, was largely rural and undeveloped. Why, then, would such an enormous effort have been made to construct these vast earthworks in a place that seemed to lack the infrastructure to support such a project? Did the builders of Thornborough live elsewhere, perhaps in temporary encampments, returning to the site only for specific rituals or events? This question of purpose has given rise to a range of theories. Some archaeologists suggest that the henges may have served as a kind of ritual hub for surrounding communities, a place where people came together to participate in religious ceremonies, exchange goods, or conduct social gatherings. Others believe that Thornborough's henges could have had a more symbolic function, representing the unity of different tribes or clans within the region. The idea that these earthworks might have been built as a communal project, binding different peoples together through shared labor and belief, is an intriguing one, but it too remains speculative, lacking definitive evidence. Then, there are the more extraordinary theories that push the boundaries of conventional understanding. Some fringe researchers have suggested that Thornborough Henges could have been part of a much larger, even global network of ancient monuments stretching across Europe and into Asia. These theories often invoke ideas of lost civilizations or advanced prehistoric cultures who possessed knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and architecture far beyond what is traditionally attributed to ancient peoples. Could the builders of Thornborough Henges have been part of a forgotten global culture, sharing knowledge that was passed down through generations, only to be lost to history? One of the most intriguing aspects of this theory is the idea that Thornborough Henges, like other megalithic sites, could have been designed to mark or commemorate specific events in the history of the human race, events that we are only now beginning to understand. Perhaps in the distant past, humanity experienced a profound shift in consciousness, a moment of cultural or spiritual enlightenment, and the construction of monuments like Thornborough was part of this larger movement. But even as we explore these more speculative ideas, it is important to remember that the most plausible explanations are still those grounded in the known archaeological record. The Henges of Thornborough, like their counterparts across Europe, were likely built to serve specific religious or ceremonial functions, ceremonies designed to honor the cycles of nature, to mark important life events, or to solidify social and political bonds between different groups. Despite years of research, the full meaning of Thornborough Henges remains shrouded in mystery. We may never fully understand the intentions behind their construction or the ceremonies that once took place within their boundaries. What we do know is that these ancient earthworks speak to a time when the relationship between humanity and the natural world was more closely intertwined, when the movements of the stars and the Earth's cycles were of profound importance. As the sun sets over the Yorkshire landscape, casting long shadows over the Henges, one is left to wonder, what secrets might still be buried beneath the earth here at Thornborough? What knowledge did the builders of these ancient monuments possess, and what might we still have to learn from their legacy? The answers may lie hidden in the soil, waiting for the right moment to be revealed, perhaps in a future excavation, or perhaps in the minds of those who continue to seek out the mysteries of the ancient world. As we leave behind the earthworks of Thornborough Henges, our journey takes us to the quiet, rolling countryside of western France, where another ancient site waits to be explored, a place where the passage of time seems to slow, and the past whispers its secrets through the stones. Here, amidst the serene landscape of the Poitou-Charentes region, lies the Tumulus of Bougon, a megalithic burial site that has fascinated archaeologists and historians for over a century. The tumulus, or burial mound, stands as a monument to a civilization whose mysteries remain, even after decades of study, largely unsolved. The Tumulus of Bougon is not a single mound, but rather a complex of several burial mounds, each one rising from the ground like the ancient tombs of forgotten kings. The site was first discovered in the 19th century, though it was not until the 1950s that extensive excavations began. What was uncovered was nothing short of astonishing. Within the mounds were a series of elaborate stone structures, burial chambers, and a wealth of artifacts, tools, pottery, jewelry, and bones, that suggested a highly organized society, capable of building impressive architectural feats long before the rise of the classical civilizations. The tumulus itself is a monumental structure, a large mound of earth and stone, with a central burial chamber enclosed by massive stone slabs. These chambers, some of which are still largely intact, were used to house the remains of the dead, along with a variety of grave goods that reflected the importance of the deceased. But as awe-inspiring as these burial mounds are, it is the questions surrounding their construction and purpose that make Bougon such a compelling mystery. The tumulus dates back to around 4,500 BC, placing it firmly within the Neolithic period. This was a time when human societies were beginning to shift from hunter-gatherer lifestyles to more settled agricultural communities. Yet, despite this relatively early date, the architecture of the Tumulus of Bougon suggests a level of sophistication and organization that seems far ahead of its time. The sheer scale of the burial mounds and the complexity of their design suggest that the builders possessed considerable knowledge of construction techniques and a deep understanding of their environment. But how and why did they go to such extraordinary lengths to create these monumental tombs? The most striking feature of the tumulus is the use of massive stones, some of which weigh several tons, to construct the burial chambers. These stones were carefully arranged and fitted together without mortar, a technique that suggests a level of craftsmanship that was advanced for the time. The precision with which these stones were placed raises the question: who were the people who built this? Where did they acquire the knowledge and resources necessary to construct such an elaborate site? Mainstream archaeological explanations suggest that the tumulus was built by a society of early farmers, likely organized into clans or tribes, who sought to honor their deceased with elaborate burial practices. The burial chambers themselves are thought to reflect a belief in an afterlife, with grave goods placed alongside the bodies to ensure that the deceased were well provided for in the next world. Yet, even with this relatively straightforward interpretation, several unanswered questions remain. For example, why were such monumental burial mounds constructed in the first place? Were they simply tombs, or did they serve some other, more symbolic purpose? Could they have been places of worship or communal gathering as well as burial sites? Adding to the intrigue of the Tumulus of Bougon is the fact that, unlike other Neolithic burial sites, the tumulus appears to have been deliberately aligned with the surrounding landscape. Some researchers have suggested that the layout of the mounds may have had an astronomical significance, with the burial chambers positioned in relation to the movement of the sun, the moon, or the stars. This theory is supported by the fact that many ancient burial mounds and stone circles, from Stonehenge to the burial mounds of Scandinavia, share similar alignments with celestial events. Could the builders of Bougon have used the tumulus as a kind of cosmic calendar, marking the passage of the seasons or the cycles of the moon? And if so, what did they believe these cycles represented? As excavations at Bougon continued, researchers uncovered a wealth of artifacts, including pottery, stone tools, and animal bones, all of which painted a picture of a society that was both skilled in craftsmanship and deeply connected to the natural world. The grave goods found in the burial chambers suggest that the people of Bougon were not only farmers, but also hunters, herders, and perhaps even traders, engaged in a complex network of exchanges with other communities. The diversity of the artifacts, combined with the sophistication of the burial practices, suggests that the people of Bougon were part of a larger, more interconnected cultural tradition, one that spanned much of prehistoric Europe. But even as these facts shed light on the everyday life of the people who built the tumulus, they also raise more profound questions. The construction of such monumental burial mounds seems to imply a society with a well-defined social hierarchy, perhaps even an elite class of rulers or priests who directed the building of the tumulus and controlled access to the burial chambers. But who were these elites, and what role did they play in the larger cultural and spiritual landscape of their time? Could the tumulus have been more than just a burial site, perhaps a center of power or a place of ritual significance? And yet, perhaps the most perplexing aspect of the Tumulus of Bougon is the fact that, despite the extensive archaeological work carried out at the site, the purpose and meaning of the tumulus remain elusive. Mainstream archaeology suggests that it was a burial site, a place for the dead to rest in peace. But why such an elaborate and monumental structure was built for this purpose alone remains unclear. Could the tumulus have had other functions? Perhaps as a site of worship, a place of community gathering, or even as a symbol of the group's cosmological beliefs? Some fringe theories speculate that the Tumulus of Bougon could be connected to a broader tradition of megalithic construction that spanned across Europe. Could there have been a shared cultural or religious ideology that influenced the design of burial mounds and other monuments from the British Isles to the Mediterranean? Or perhaps the tumulus is a relic of a lost civilization, one that predates all other known cultures and whose purpose remains hidden from modern eyes. As the shadows lengthen across the fields of Bougon, the tumulus remains silent, its stones holding the secrets of a time long past. The more we uncover, the more questions arise. What did the builders of Bougon understand about life, death, and the cosmos? Why did they invest so much time and energy into constructing such a massive and mysterious monument? The answers may never fully be revealed, but as we continue to study and explore, the tumulus will remain a symbol of the deep, uncharted history that still waits to be understood. As we leave the enigmatic burial mounds of Bougon behind, our journey takes us high into the Andean mountains of Peru, to a site that offers a glimpse into a civilization whose complexity and ingenuity continue to baffle archaeologists. This is Sayhuite, a place where stone labyrinths twist through the earth like a puzzle, each turn and passage holding secrets that have resisted understanding for centuries. Located in the southern highlands of Peru, the Sayhuite stone labyrinth is a sprawling and mysterious site, comprised of intricate stone structures that seem to defy explanation. The labyrinth itself, carved into the landscape with precise and deliberate craftsmanship, is not a mere ruin, but rather a place that seems to have been designed for a purpose beyond simple habitation or defense. The labyrinth consists of hundreds of interconnected stone channels, terraces, and small chambers, all arranged in patterns that hint at an ancient order. The exact function of these stone pathways and chambers remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of ancient South America. The site was first discovered in the 1930s, but it wasn't until the late 20th century that serious archaeological investigations began. What has been uncovered is a complex system of water channels, tanks, and reservoirs, all constructed from precisely shaped stones that fit together with remarkable accuracy. Many of these channels appear to have been designed to direct and control water, leading some researchers to believe that Sayhuite was once a center for hydraulic engineering, a place where water management played a critical role in the daily life of its people. The exact date of Sayhuite's construction is uncertain, but it is generally believed to have been built by the pre-Inca cultures that inhabited the region, perhaps as early as 2000 BC. The site predates the rise of the mighty Inca Empire, though it is often linked to the wider Andean tradition of water worship and agricultural innovation. In the arid highlands of Peru, water was, and still is, an essential lifeline, and the presence of complex water systems suggests that the people of Sayhuite understood the value of controlling and managing this precious resource. Yet, despite the advanced nature of the water systems, the true function of the labyrinth and its many channels remains unclear. Some archaeologists believe that the site was used for irrigation purposes, with the channels and reservoirs designed to channel water for agricultural fields. Others suggest that the labyrinth was part of a larger religious or ceremonial complex, a site where water played a symbolic role in rituals and offerings to the gods. After all, in Andean cultures, water was often associated with fertility, life, and the divine. Gods who controlled the flow of rivers and rainfall were of paramount importance. What is most puzzling, however, is the apparent sophistication of the hydraulic systems. The channels at Sayhuite are carefully engineered to direct water in specific ways, with some systems incorporating drainage mechanisms and flow regulators. This level of engineering would have required a deep understanding of hydrodynamics, something that, by conventional historical accounts, was far ahead of what other ancient cultures were capable of at the time. Were the builders of Sayhuite simply ahead of their time, or were they working with knowledge passed down from an earlier, perhaps even forgotten civilization? This question has led some researchers to consider more speculative theories, such as the possibility of a lost culture with advanced engineering skills that were later obscured by the rise of other societies. Adding to the mystery is the site's lack of clear evidence regarding the identity of the people who built it. While the surrounding region is known to have been inhabited by several pre-Inca cultures, including the Wari and the Tiwanaku, there is little to suggest who exactly might have constructed the labyrinth or for what specific purpose. The absence of written records from the time, combined with the site's unique design, raises the possibility that Sayhuite was created by a people whose history has not been preserved in the archaeological record. Could it be that Sayhuite represents the work of a lost civilization, one whose knowledge of water systems and hydraulic engineering was passed down, but whose name and culture disappeared from history? Then there are the more speculative theories, ones that stretch the boundaries of conventional archaeology. Some fringe researchers have suggested that Sayhuite may not have been a purely human endeavor. They point to the precise nature of the stonework, the intricacy of the labyrinthine channels, and the alignment of certain features as evidence that the site was built with knowledge or assistance beyond the capabilities of the local people. Could Sayhuite have been influenced by an ancient, possibly extraterrestrial civilization, or even constructed by beings with knowledge that surpassed anything seen in the region's known cultures? While such theories remain highly speculative, they do bring attention to the astonishing precision of the site's construction. The water channels at Sayhuite are not only functional, but also seem to be laid out with a sense of order that implies a deeper understanding of nature's forces. The fact that many of the stone blocks are shaped and arranged so that they fit together perfectly, without mortar, suggests that the builders were not just skilled masons, but also master engineers. This has led some to ask, could the people of Sayhuite have had access to knowledge of construction techniques and water management systems that we have only recently begun to rediscover? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Sayhuite site is the large number of carved stone structures that dot the landscape. Some of these stones are adorned with intricate symbols and carvings, many of which have yet to be deciphered. Some researchers believe these symbols may offer insight into the spiritual or religious practices of the people who built Sayhuite, while others suggest that the carvings represent a form of early writing or a symbolic language designed to communicate with the gods or with other communities. These enigmatic carvings add another layer of mystery to the site, suggesting that Sayhuite may have been more than just a functional space. It may have been a place of deep spiritual or cultural significance. Despite the extensive research that has been conducted at Sayhuite, the true purpose of the site remains an open question. Was it a practical place, built for water management and agricultural efficiency? Or was it a religious site, a ceremonial center designed to honor the gods and control the forces of nature? And, if it was a place of worship, what did the people of Sayhuite believe about water, the earth, and the cosmos? As the sun sets over the ancient labyrinth, casting long shadows across the stone channels and terraces, one is left with a lingering question. What exactly did the builders of Sayhuite understand about the natural world? What knowledge did they possess, and what secrets are still hidden beneath the stones? The labyrinth remains a testament to human ingenuity, but it also remains a riddle, waiting for the right moment, or the right mind, to unlock its mysteries. Perhaps in time, we will uncover the full story of Sayhuite, but for now, it remains a place of quiet wonder, where the past calls out to us, waiting for its secrets to be revealed. As we leave the ancient stone labyrinth of Sayhuite behind, we move across the Mediterranean to an island that has been home to some of the most intriguing and mysterious archaeological sites in Europe, Minorca. Here, amidst the rugged landscape of the Balearic Islands, lies one of the most enigmatic megalithic structures of the ancient world, the Naveta des Tudons. Its shape alone is enough to spark curiosity. Its distinctive boat-like form, rising from the earth like an ancient tomb, has captivated historians and archaeologists for centuries. Yet, despite the many studies and theories, the full story of this monument remains elusive. The Naveta des Tudons is a burial monument, one of the most remarkable examples of the prehistoric megalithic structures found across the islands of the Mediterranean. Constructed during the early Bronze Age, around 1500 BC, the Naveta stands as a testament to the people who once inhabited Minorca, a society that remains largely mysterious, despite their impressive architectural achievements. The structure is built of large, flat stones that form the walls of a corbelled chamber, culminating in a pointed, beehive-like roof. Its shape, resembling the hull of an ancient boat, adds an air of mystery, raising the question, why did the builders choose this particular form, so distinctly different from other burial structures of the time? The name Naveta itself, meaning little boat in Catalan, evokes the image of a vessel, perhaps symbolically carrying the dead to the afterlife. The boat motif, while a common theme in many ancient cultures, is especially striking here, considering Minorca's isolation and its distance from other Mediterranean civilizations. The Naveta could have been a symbol of passage, of transition, or of the spiritual journey after death, but no written records have survived to explain its meaning. What was the symbolic role of the Naveta in the culture that constructed it? The purpose of the Naveta des Tudons was, in all likelihood, to house the dead, particularly the elite or high-status individuals of the community. Inside the tomb, archaeologists have discovered skeletal remains, along with offerings that suggest the people of Minorca believed in an afterlife, one that required provisioning for the deceased. Grave goods, including pottery, jewelry, and weapons, have been found alongside the bodies, indicating that those buried here were of importance. The fact that these individuals were placed in such a monumental structure suggests a society with distinct social hierarchies, where the dead were honored with elaborate burial practices. Yet, beyond these basic facts, the exact beliefs and customs of the people of Minorca remain a matter of speculation. What makes the Naveta des Tudons especially fascinating is the way in which it reflects the broader prehistoric cultural landscape of the Mediterranean. This region, during the Bronze Age, was a crossroads for various civilizations, from the Minoans in Crete to the ancient cultures of the Iberian Peninsula. The people of Minorca, while geographically isolated, were likely influenced by these advanced cultures. Yet their architecture and customs, including the unique design of the Naveta, suggest they may have had a distinct identity. Were they isolated, or were they part of a larger, interconnected world of trade and cultural exchange? There is much that remains unexplained about the Naveta des Tudons. The construction of such a monument would have required a considerable amount of effort and resources, raising further questions. How did these early people, without the wheel or advanced construction techniques, manage to move and position these massive stones? Some researchers have suggested that the builders of the Naveta may have had sophisticated knowledge of construction methods, perhaps even techniques that were shared across the Mediterranean or passed down from an earlier, forgotten culture. The design of the Naveta itself is another source of intrigue. Unlike most other megalithic tombs of the time, which were either circular or rectangular in form, the Naveta features a boat-shaped roof, evoking the image of a vessel designed for transport. This boat-like shape, with its pointed structure, appears almost symbolic. In ancient Mediterranean cultures, boats were often associated with the journey to the afterlife, such as in Egyptian tombs where boats were used to transport the dead across the waters to the realm of the gods. Could the Naveta have served a similar purpose, representing a vessel that would carry the soul of the deceased to another realm? Or could it have been an imitation of some kind of ancient boat burial practice, not seen in other Mediterranean sites? Then there is the question of the people who constructed this tomb. While we know that the Naveta des Tudons was part of the broader Talaitic culture of Minorca, a people who are thought to have been skilled in construction and agriculture, very little is known about their specific beliefs and practices. Archaeological evidence suggests they were a hierarchical society. But what was the basis for this hierarchy? How were leaders selected, and what role did religion play in their lives? The Naveta itself could hold clues to these questions. Its elaborate design and the attention to detail in its construction suggest a deep understanding of architecture and spiritual symbolism. Yet there are no written records, no inscriptions or scripts to provide direct insight into the culture that built it. As with many ancient sites, fringe theories have flourished around the Naveta des Tudons. Some have proposed that the monument is not merely a tomb, but a site of astronomical significance. The alignment of the Naveta, its shape, and the positioning of the tomb in relation to the surrounding landscape have led some researchers to suggest that it could have been used as a marker for celestial events, such as the solstices or the equinoxes. Could the Naveta have been part of a more elaborate network of ancient monuments, all designed to track the movements of the stars and planets? Or was its function purely spiritual, perhaps serving as a place for ritual offerings, or as a connection between the earthly and divine realms? Others have pointed to the unique nature of the Naveta itself, its boat-like shape, and have speculated that it might have connections to other ancient cultures with similar burial practices, such as the Egyptians or the Mycenaeans. The concept of using a boat as a burial vessel or as a symbolic representation of an afterlife journey was common across many Mediterranean societies. Could the Naveta of Minorca be evidence of cross-cultural influences that we have yet to fully understand? Or is it a reflection of the island's isolated development, representing a distinctly local belief system that we have yet to uncover? Despite the many theories, the Naveta des Tudons remains a mystery, its purpose and the full extent of its significance still obscured by the passage of time. The lack of written records, combined with the site's unique architectural features, means that its true story is likely lost to us forever. What we are left with is a remarkable monument, standing as a silent witness to a people whose world has vanished, but whose legacy lives on in the stone and the symbols they left behind. As we look at the Naveta des Tudons, its shadow stretching across the Minorcan landscape, one question lingers. What do we still have to learn from this mysterious structure? What secrets remain locked within its walls, waiting for the next generation of researchers to uncover, or perhaps waiting to be revealed in a way we've yet to understand? The Naveta remains a testament to the ingenuity and spirituality of an ancient people, but its deeper mysteries may continue to call out to us for centuries to come. As we move from the island tombs of Minorca to the heart of the Peruvian desert, we enter a realm that, for centuries, lay hidden beneath the sands of time, the sacred city of Caral. Caral is one of the oldest and most enigmatic urban centers in the Americas, its secrets buried beneath millennia of shifting earth. In the arid, windswept plains of the Supe Valley, just north of Lima, the remains of Caral stand as a testament to a civilization that flourished long before the rise of the Incas. Unlike the more familiar ruins of ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, Caral has largely remained a mystery until its rediscovery in the late 20th century. The sacred city of Caral is an extraordinary archaeological site, one that challenges our understanding of ancient urban development and human society. It was first uncovered in the 1990s by Peruvian archaeologist Ruth Shady, whose work revealed a sprawling, sophisticated city that dates back over 4,500 years to around 3000 BC. This places Caral at the very dawn of urban civilization, long before the construction of the pyramids of Giza or the rise of Mesopotamia's early cities. Caral is often cited as one of the oldest urban centers in the world, yet its history and purpose remain largely shrouded in mystery. The city itself sprawls across a vast area, with monumental pyramidal structures, sunken plazas, and an intricate network of stone buildings. Unlike other ancient cities, which were typically built around defensive walls or central fortifications, Caral's layout seems to emphasize ceremonial and communal spaces. Its focal points are large, stepped pyramids, some of which still stand several meters high, surrounding vast open plazas that were likely used for public gatherings, ceremonies, or ritual practices. The layout suggests a city built for more than just domestic life. It was a place of ritual, of social exchange, and perhaps even of religious devotion. What sets Caral apart from other ancient cities is not just its age, but the apparent sophistication of its design. The city's builders, known as the Norte Chico people, constructed complex structures with precise knowledge of geometry and architecture, utilizing locally sourced materials such as stone and adobe. These structures, though relatively simple in their form, demonstrate an advanced understanding of urban planning. However, the most intriguing aspect of Caral is its apparent lack of evidence for warfare or defense. There are no walls, no fortifications, and no signs of violent conflict. How then did this society manage to flourish for over a millennium without the need for defensive structures or military organization? One of the most puzzling aspects of Caral is the absence of writing or formal records. Unlike other early civilizations in the Old World, Caral's people left no inscriptions, no hieroglyphs, no written accounts to explain their society or their culture. This has led some to speculate that Caral's influence may have been purely cultural or religious rather than political. If Caral was a place of ritual and social interaction, could it have served as a hub for the exchange of ideas and beliefs among surrounding communities? Or was Caral a center of power in a way we don't yet fully understand? The city's layout also points to the possibility of a highly organized society with a complex understanding of astronomy and timekeeping. Some of the structures in Caral, especially the pyramids and plazas, appear to be aligned with celestial events, such as the solstices or the movement of the stars. This has led to speculation that Caral was not just a center for agriculture or trade, but also for astronomical observation. Was the city built with the stars in mind? Did its architects design it to serve as a kind of calendar, marking the cycles of the sun and moon? In this desert landscape, where water is scarce and the seasons play a crucial role in survival, the importance of tracking celestial events would have been immense. While many mainstream scholars view Caral as a center of religious and political power, others suggest that its true purpose may have been far more mysterious. Some have proposed that Caral was a site for ancient ritual practices that went beyond mere ceremonial observance. The pyramids and plazas might have been used for complex rituals designed to influence the natural world, such as agricultural fertility or the control of water sources. The Norte Chico people, after all, were highly dependent on agriculture, and their survival may have hinged on their ability to control their environment through spiritual or ritual means. Could Caral have been a place of ceremonial magic, where the people sought to influence the forces of nature through their understanding of the stars, the earth, and the elements? Adding to the intrigue is the discovery of musical instruments at Caral, flutes and other wind instruments made from bone, that suggest music may have played a significant role in the rituals of this ancient society. These instruments point to a highly developed culture, one that understood the power of sound and rhythm, perhaps using them as part of sacred ceremonies designed to align human actions with cosmic forces. The musical instruments found at Caral have led some researchers to theorize that music was used as a form of communication with the gods, further complicating the question of what Caral's true purpose was. Despite these fascinating discoveries, many questions remain. Why did Caral's people, with all their knowledge and technological skill, build such a grand city in the middle of a desert, without leaving behind a clear legacy of art, writing, or a tangible political system? The absence of warfare and the lack of defensive structures suggest a society that was either incredibly peaceful or simply had no need for external defense. Could the city have been an experiment in social and religious organization, an early attempt to create a society based on communal values rather than on power or territorial conquest? Alternatively, did the city serve a purpose that we can't yet comprehend, one that didn't require military defense or written records? The most enigmatic aspect of Caral, however, is its disappearance. By around 1800 BC, the city appears to have been abandoned. There are no signs of violence or environmental catastrophe. It seems that Caral simply faded from existence. What caused its decline? Was it the collapse of its agricultural systems, a shift in religious or political power, or did the city simply evolve into something else, its inhabitants moving on to new frontiers? The mystery of Caral's disappearance only deepens the enigma of the civilization that built it. Some fringe theories suggest that the Norte Chico people may have been part of an even older, forgotten civilization, one that existed before the rise of known ancient cultures in the Americas. Could the builders of Caral have had contact with other ancient peoples, or even with civilizations that have yet to be discovered? The absence of written records in Caral raises the possibility that much of its history was lost, perhaps even purposefully erased. What if the story of Caral is just one fragment of a much larger, more complex narrative that spans across the Americas and beyond? As we stand among the towering pyramids and sunken plazas of Caral, the wind carrying whispers through the ruins, the questions only multiply. What was the true significance of Caral? Was it a center of religion, a hub for astronomical observation, or something entirely different, something that we are only beginning to understand? The sacred city of Caral is a place of profound mystery, one that continues to invite deeper exploration. As we unravel its layers, we may only uncover more questions, but that is the nature of ancient mysteries. They are not simply puzzles to be solved, but windows into worlds that still hold secrets waiting to be discovered. What knowledge did the people of Caral possess? What did they know about the cosmos, about time, about human society, that we have yet to uncover? Perhaps, in time, we will find the answers. But for now, Caral remains one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world, its secrets locked within the stones, waiting for someone to unlock them. As we leave the ancient mysteries of Caral behind, we journey across the waters to the misty shores of Wales, where another riddle from the past quietly waits to be uncovered, the Bryn Celli passage tomb. Nestled on the Isle of Anglesey, this ancient monument stands as a testament to the Neolithic people who constructed it around 5,000 years ago. The tomb's name, Bryn Celli, translates to Hill of the Dark Cell, a fitting name for a structure shrouded in both mystery and the shadow of time. The tomb itself is a remarkable feat of ancient engineering. At first glance, Bryn Celli seems unassuming, with a grassy mound rising gently from the earth. But beneath its serene exterior lies an intricately designed passage tomb, a place where the dead were not merely buried, but honored and perhaps even elevated to a cosmic significance. Its passageway, constructed from large stones, leads into a chamber at the center of the mound, designed to hold the remains of the dead. But the mystery of Bryn Celli lies not only in its structure, but in the seemingly unexplainable features it contains. The tomb is aligned with the movements of the sun, suggesting that it had an astronomical purpose. On the summer solstice, the sun's rays shine through the entrance passage, casting light directly onto the interior chamber. This alignment hints at a society deeply connected to celestial events, one that may have used the tomb as a kind of celestial observatory, a place to mark the passage of time and seasons. But what was the true purpose of this alignment? Was it merely a symbolic gesture, or was there a more profound connection between the tomb's structure and the cycles of the cosmos? As we step inside the tomb, the first thing that strikes you is the atmosphere. The dim light of the entrance passage contrasts with the darkness of the burial chamber, evoking a sense of transition between worlds. It's as if the tomb is not just a physical space, but a portal, one that connects the living to the spiritual realm. The chamber is small, barely enough for a few people to stand in, yet its significance looms large. In the dark, quiet space, the walls are marked with faint carvings, petroglyphs that seem to dance in the flickering light, their meanings lost to time. These markings, simple yet profound, suggest a deeper layer to the tomb, one that goes beyond the mere physical remains of the dead. Who were the people who built Bryn Celli Dubh? What did they believe, and why did they construct such an intricate tomb in a remote part of the island? The tomb is believed to have been built by a community that relied on agriculture and pastoralism, a society that had begun to embrace more complex forms of social organization. But what drew them to the site, and what was their connection to the land and the skies? Could this tomb have served as more than just a final resting place for the dead? Was it perhaps a ritual site, a place where the living came together to perform ceremonies that linked them to their ancestors or to the gods of the sun and the earth? The tomb's construction suggests a sophisticated knowledge of architecture and engineering, with precisely placed stones and careful planning. Some have suggested that Bryn Celli Dubh was not just a tomb, but a ceremonial space, perhaps a center for a larger community that believed in a strong connection between the physical and spiritual worlds. The people who built it were likely part of the Neolithic culture known as the Beaker people, who spread across Europe during this time. Their funerary practices included the construction of large stone tombs, and they may have viewed such places as sacred, as portals to the afterlife or to the realms of the gods. But what makes Bryn Celli Dubh truly unique is its association with the sun and the changing seasons. The fact that the tomb is aligned with the summer solstice suggests a ritualistic connection to the solar cycle. Could the people who built Bryn Celli Dubh have used the tomb to mark significant moments in the agricultural calendar? Perhaps the rising sun on the solstice symbolized the renewal of life, a moment of rebirth that coincided with the harvest or planting seasons. Was this a place of celebration, where the community gathered to honor the sun's power and to ensure the fertility of their crops? Some researchers believe that the tomb may have been used as a site for ancestor worship, where the dead were not just mourned, but celebrated. Could the people of Bryn Celli Dubh have seen the sun as a direct link between their world and the spiritual realm, with the tomb acting as a conduit for communication with their ancestors or with divine forces? The sun, in many ancient cultures, was seen as a symbol of life, death, and rebirth, an ever-turning wheel that governed the natural world. Could the passage of light through the tomb's entrance have symbolized the journey of the soul, moving from the physical realm into the world of the gods? Then there is the mystery of the burial practices themselves. Unlike other Neolithic tombs, where multiple bodies might be interred together, Bryn Celli Dubh appears to have been a tomb for a single individual. Archaeological evidence suggests that the tomb was used for a primary burial, with the body placed in a crouched position, perhaps in preparation for a journey into the afterlife. But what was the significance of this solitary burial? Was it reserved for an important figure, a chieftain, a spiritual leader, or a member of the elite? Or was it a burial ritual that reflected the society's deep beliefs in the individual's connection to the cosmos? Some fringe theories suggest that the tomb may have been used for more than just funerary purposes. Could it have been a place where rites of passage were performed, a space where the living came to seek guidance or wisdom from the dead? Could Bryn Celli Dubh have served as a center for shamanic practices, where the tomb itself was thought to be imbued with spiritual power? The dark, confined space of the chamber, with its subtle solar alignment, could easily have served as a place for trance rituals or visionary experiences, where the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds was believed to be thin. As we ponder the mysteries of Bryn Celli Dubh, we are left with more questions than answers. The tomb's purpose and significance remain open to interpretation. What exactly did the people who built it believe? Was it a tomb for the dead, a site of ritual, or something else entirely? The lack of written records leaves us to piece together the fragments of a long-lost culture, one that may have been more connected to the cosmos and the natural world than we can ever truly understand. Even today, as we stand before the ancient stones, we are reminded of how much remains hidden. Bryn Celli, like so many other ancient sites, continues to call out to us across the centuries, offering us glimpses into a world that no longer exists. What was the true significance of the alignment with the sun? What did the carvings on the stones represent? And what, if anything, did the ancient people of Bryn Celli hope to achieve with this monumental structure? These questions, unanswered for thousands of years, remain as enigmatic as the tomb itself. Perhaps one day, with more research and deeper understanding, we will uncover the full story of Bryn Celli. But for now, it stands as a silent witness to the mysteries of the past, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blur, and where the light of the sun still shines on the ancient stones, whispering secrets to those who are willing to listen. As we leave behind the mystical shores of Wales and journey east, we find ourselves in the vast, open steppes of Kazakhstan, home to an enigmatic archaeological site known as the Begazy megalithic Mausolea. Hidden deep within the Eurasian heartland, this region offers a window into a civilization long overshadowed by the grandeur of its neighbors, yet no less fascinating. The Begazy complex, a series of megalithic tombs, offers not just a glimpse into a long-lost culture, but also a set of profound mysteries that continue to elude explanation. The landscape around Begazy is striking, an endless sea of grassland, punctuated only by the occasional rise of the earth, where ancient burial mounds, or kurgans, break the horizon. These earthen mounds hold within them the remains of an ancient people who left behind monumental stone structures unlike anything else found in Central Asia. The Begazy Mainki culture, as it is known, flourished around 1000 BC, their megalithic mausolea standing as silent witnesses to a world we know far too little about. The mausolea themselves are massive stone structures, composed of enormous slabs of stone arranged in precise patterns. Some of these tombs are circular, others rectangular, but all of them exude a sense of purpose and complexity. These megalithic tombs, or Begazy, seem to have served as elaborate burial sites for important figures within this ancient society. But the question that immediately arises is, why such monumental tombs for people who, it seems, had little to no written record of their existence? These tombs, with their large stone slabs, are aligned with a certain precision, suggesting that the builders possessed a remarkable understanding of geometry and astronomy. Could it be that these structures were not just burial sites, but also ceremonial places where the dead were honored and the cycles of life and death were marked in accordance with celestial events? Some scholars have proposed that these tombs, like others throughout the ancient world, were built in such a way that the rising or setting sun would shine through the entrances, casting long shadows or illuminating specific parts of the tomb. If true, this would mean that the Begazy people had an advanced understanding of the cosmos long before the Greeks or Egyptians. While the Begazy structures were clearly monumental, their purpose remains a topic of debate. They appear to have been reserved for the elite members of society, as evidenced by the rich grave goods found inside, ritual vessels, weapons, and ornate jewelry. These offerings suggest that the Begazy people had complex religious or spiritual beliefs, possibly involving an afterlife, and the wealth buried with the deceased indicates that their status was of great importance. However, what stands out is the unusual nature of the tombs themselves. Unlike many other burial sites from the same period, there is no evidence of the traditional chambered tombs typically used in such societies. Instead, the Begazy tombs are marked by their sprawling size and unusual construction, with megaliths arranged in patterns that suggest deliberate symbolic intent. What is most striking about these tombs is their starkness. There are no grand temples or palaces, no sprawling cities surrounding the tombs, just the tombs themselves, placed carefully within the vast, open landscape. Was this strategic isolation a reflection of the society's spiritual beliefs? Was the vastness of the open steppes symbolic of the journey to the afterlife? Or, more mysteriously, were these burial sites markers for something much larger, a society whose influence extended far beyond these mounds of stone? Adding to the mystery are the distinct carvings found on many of the stones that make up the Mausolea. Some of these carvings appear to depict symbols and figures, many of which have yet to be fully deciphered. Intriguingly, these symbols seem to have no direct correlation with known writing systems of the time. Some resemble animals, others are geometric shapes that might signify the cycles of nature or the heavens. Could these markings be a form of written language, one that we have not yet understood? Or are they purely symbolic, expressions of a belief system we can only guess at? The burial practices of the Begazy people also raise several intriguing questions. While other cultures of the time buried their dead in multiple graves, sometimes in family clusters, the Begazy mausolea seem to have been reserved for individual burials. This might suggest a belief in the individual's journey after death, but the exact meaning of this remains unclear. The individuals buried within these monumental tombs were likely leaders or priests, people who held significant status within their society. But how were they selected? What rites were performed to prepare them for the afterlife? And what role did these elaborate tombs play in the social hierarchy of the Begazy culture? Then there is the question of the role of the surrounding landscape. The Begazy tombs are scattered across the steppes, often located on elevated ground, giving them a commanding view of the surrounding area. This could indicate that these tombs were not simply places of burial, but also markers of territorial significance. Were these structures constructed to demarcate power and control over the land? Or were they intended to be seen by others, symbols of a society's reach and influence across the vast landscape? Some fringe theories suggest that the Begazy people were far more connected to the wider world than we currently believe. While the steppes of Central Asia were remote and isolated, there is evidence that the Begazy culture may have had contact with other ancient civilizations, particularly those of the Persian Empire, the Scythians, or even the mysterious, almost mythic people of the Altai Mountains. Could these megalithic mausolea have been influenced by ideas or knowledge from these neighboring cultures? Were the Begazy tombs perhaps the remnants of a lost civilization, one that we have yet to uncover in its entirety? The sheer scale and complexity of the Begazy tombs point to a people who possessed a deep understanding of the natural and spiritual world, one that we are only beginning to comprehend. The precision of their construction, the rich symbolism embedded in their carvings, and the vastness of their burial sites all suggest a culture that was highly advanced, yet remains largely invisible to the historical record. What did these people know about the afterlife, about the cosmos, and about their place in the world? One of the most unsettling aspects of the Begazy mausolea is the profound silence surrounding them. These tombs were built for the dead, but they are far from the only remnants of the Begazy people. Other aspects of their culture, such as their language, their rituals, and their daily lives, remain lost to time. The questions we are left with only grow more complex as we study the few remaining traces of this civilization. Why did the Begazy people choose to build such grandiose tombs in isolation, and what was their significance? What did they believe about death and the afterlife, and how did they connect their beliefs to the natural world around them? The fact that so much of their culture remains hidden beneath the earth, beyond our reach, adds another layer to the mystery. What might still be buried within the earth of the Begazy steppes? What secrets remain, waiting to be unearthed? As we stand before the massive stone slabs of the Begazy Mausolea, we can only wonder at the civilization that created them. The tombs, silent and unmoving, continue to guard their secrets, perhaps forever. Yet they remain an undeniable presence, a reminder of a people who lived and died with knowledge and purpose, and whose legacy is written in the stones of the earth. What remains hidden from us, beneath the layers of history, is a question that may one day be answered, or perhaps not. For now, the mystery endures, inviting us to seek, to question, and to imagine the world of the Begazy people as it once was. After the stone remnants of the Begazy Mausolea, we now turn our gaze upward, to the high Andean plateau of Peru, where a truly perplexing landscape exists, one that has long mystified explorers, archaeologists, and dreamers alike. Here, amid the windswept mountains and vast open plains, lies the Marcahuasi stone forest, a remote and rugged site composed of massive, weathered rock formations that appear strangely deliberate. At first glance, the site seems like a natural geological formation, but a closer examination reveals something more puzzling, and perhaps even unnerving. The Marcahuasi stone forest, located at an elevation of around 4,000 meters, 13,123 feet above sea level, is a place of startling beauty and intrigue. As the sun rises over the jagged peaks of the Andes, the sharp contours of the rocks cast long, eerie shadows. From a distance, the formations look almost like the ruins of an ancient city, frozen in time. But as you draw nearer, the truth becomes more elusive. Some of the rocks have been eroded into shapes that bear striking resemblances to human faces, animals, and mythical creatures. But what is the meaning behind these shapes? Are they the result of natural forces, wind, water, and time? Or did ancient hands play a role in shaping this curious landscape? The most iconic of the formations is a massive rock face known as the Face of Marcahuasi. It resembles the visage of a human head, its features detailed enough to make one wonder if it's a stone carving or the product of nature's uncanny ability to mimic human shapes. The stone face seems almost to gaze out across the valley, its unblinking eyes fixed upon a world that has long since moved on. But is this face merely the result of erosion, or does it hold some deeper symbolic meaning? Some believe that the formation is evidence of an ancient civilization, one whose people might have had the knowledge to craft these features deliberately. But if that is the case, who were they, and why did they leave such a cryptic signature on the land? Adding to the mystery, there are numerous other rock formations in Marcahuasi that appear to depict animal forms, lions, birds, and serpents, to name just a few. Some of these shapes seem too precise to be the result of random weathering. Could they have been intentionally shaped, perhaps by a lost culture with advanced knowledge of stonework and artistic expression? Or, more intriguingly, could they represent a forgotten spiritual or cultural tradition, one that used the natural world as a canvas for its beliefs? For many, the most unsettling aspect of Marcahuasi lies in its isolation. The site is located far from any known ancient cities or established trade routes. Why, then, would a society of any kind choose such a remote and challenging location to create such intricate carvings and structures? It's almost as if the formations were meant to be hidden from the world, preserved high in the Andes, waiting to be rediscovered centuries later. Could this suggest that Marcahuasi was part of an ancient pilgrimage site? Perhaps a place where people came to seek spiritual enlightenment, or a sacred location where the forces of nature and the divine were believed to converge? When you delve into the history of Marcahuasi, things become even murkier. Though the site is widely considered a natural formation, it has also sparked speculation that the area was once home to an advanced civilization, one that may have inhabited the Andean highlands long before the rise of the Inca Empire. The Inca themselves, with their reverence for the land and their complex spiritual beliefs, might have considered Marcahuasi a place of power, a connection between the earth and the heavens. But there is no concrete evidence that they ever constructed anything at Marcahuasi, at least nothing that can be conclusively identified. Instead, what remains are these haunting rock formations, as if they have been waiting, untouched, for millennia. Some theories lean into the possibility of ancient pre-Inca cultures having used Marcahuasi for ceremonial purposes. The Andean people, both ancient and modern, have long held sacred many natural rock formations, often attributing them with spiritual significance. Perhaps Marcahuasi was one such site, a place where the earth itself was believed to hold sacred power. This idea is supported by the fact that similar rock formations have been found in other parts of the world, from Easter Island to the Egyptian pyramids, where stone structures are often imbued with spiritual or astronomical meaning. Could the stone faces and animal shapes at Marcahuasi also be a form of ancient religious expression? A place where the people honored their gods or ancestors through stone and ritual? As we examine the formations more closely, another layer of mystery emerges. Among the rocks, some explorers have claimed to have found ancient carvings or glyphs, inscriptions that seem to resemble neither the Quechua script of the Inca nor any other known indigenous writing system. These glyphs remain largely unexplained, with many theories suggesting they could be remnants of a civilization older than the Inca. Could these inscriptions be evidence of a lost language, one that has long since faded from memory? Or could they be a form of ancient symbolism designed to communicate spiritual or astronomical knowledge that is now lost to time? The environment itself adds to the enigma of Marcahuasi. High in the Andes, at the junction of the cold mountain air and the intense sun, the landscape is harsh and unforgiving. For a site to have been built in such a challenging location suggests a culture with a deep connection to the land, a society perhaps driven by religious or mystical beliefs that saw the high mountains as the home of the gods, or the gateway to another realm. Could Marcahuasi have been built as a ceremonial space for these people? A place where they believed the gods descended to earth, or a portal between worlds? Yet, there is also the possibility that Marcahuasi was not a place of worship at all, but rather a site designed to mark the land, perhaps a territorial claim or a monument to some long-forgotten event. In many ancient cultures, great natural features, such as mountains or stones, were considered to be the manifestation of gods or supernatural forces. The formation of rock faces resembling humans or animals may have served as a reminder of those forces, marking the boundary between the material world and the divine. If this is the case, then Marcahuasi could have been an important cultural or political marker, a means of communicating power or dominance over the land. But for all the intriguing possibilities, there is no clear explanation for Marcahuasi. Is it a product of nature's artistry, or is it the work of an ancient people with a knowledge of stone and design far beyond what we currently understand? Were the rock faces and animal shapes created for spiritual or ceremonial purposes, or did they serve a different function entirely, one we have yet to uncover? The lack of definitive answers only adds to the mystery of the site, and the more we learn, the more questions seem to emerge. The isolated location of Marcahuasi, combined with its striking and seemingly deliberate formations, leaves us wondering, what lies beyond the conventional explanations? Was it merely a coincidence that the rocks formed in such extraordinary shapes, or is there a deeper meaning behind this bizarre and beautiful landscape? As we stand at the edge of the stone forest, gazing out over the vast, empty expanse of the Andes, we are left with the haunting sense that Marcahuasi, like so many ancient mysteries, is still hiding something just beyond our grasp, waiting for the right person to uncover its truth. Perhaps one day, the ancient people who crafted this site will be revealed to us, along with their motives, their beliefs, and their purpose. But for now, the stones stand in silence, guarding their secrets, beckoning us to continue seeking the truth. As we leave behind the towering faces of Marcahuasi, we now turn our attention to the far northern reaches of the British Isles, where another stone structure, both ancient and enigmatic, awaits. On the rugged coast of Orkney, off the northeast tip of Scotland, stands the Broch of Gurness. Perched at the edge of a windswept promontory, this towering stone fortress is one of the most remarkable and mysterious examples of Iron Age architecture in Britain. Its silent stones have withstood the passage of centuries, and yet the story of the Broch remains tantalizingly elusive. The Broch of Gurness is not a single structure, but rather a complex of interconnected buildings surrounded by a massive circular wall rising high above the surrounding landscape. The Broch itself, a tall, tower-like building, is the centerpiece of the site. From its construction to its purpose, this ancient ruin has baffled archaeologists for years. Built with thick walls of stone, each layer of the Broch seems to rise in careful precision, narrowing as it climbs. Today, only the outer shell remains, but even in its ruined state, it evokes a sense of awe and mystery. The Broch stands as a silent sentinel over the sea, its original purpose unclear, its significance lost to time. At first glance, it may appear to be just another example of the many brochs scattered across the Orkney Islands and the northern Scottish Highlands. Large, round stone towers that were built sometime around 1000 BC. But the Broch of Gurness is different. Unlike other brochs that were often isolated, Gurness is part of a much larger settlement, with several smaller structures surrounding it. These buildings are thought to have been used for a variety of purposes: homes, storage rooms, and perhaps places of worship. However, the Broch itself seems to have had a far more significant role within the community, dominating the settlement both in size and in its commanding position on the landscape. But what was its true function? Mainstream archaeological thinking suggests that brochs like the one at Gurness were defensive structures, built to protect communities from invading forces or rival clans. The sheer thickness of the walls, up to 4 meters in places, along with the tall, towering structure, would have made it an imposing stronghold. The design of the Broch, with its narrow passageways and internal chambers, suggests a place where inhabitants could retreat in times of danger, storing food and supplies, while also providing a strategic vantage point over the surrounding land. Yet, while this theory seems plausible, there is something about Gurness that resists easy categorization. The Broch's design, its architectural complexity and deliberate placement, suggests it may have served a purpose far beyond mere defense. The location of the Broch of Gurness is not just strategic in a military sense, but also symbolic. Positioned on a promontory that juts out into the sea, the Broch commands a dramatic view of the surrounding waters and the distant horizon. The sea, in ancient times, was both a source of sustenance and a boundary, an uncharted realm filled with mystery and danger. Could it be that the Broch's placement, high above the water, was not only for defense but also for ceremonial purposes? Was it perhaps a focal point for ritual activities, tied to the people's beliefs about the sea and the forces beyond the land? Some researchers have suggested that the Broch of Gurness was more than a military outpost or a simple dwelling place. They point to its size and layout, which are unlike those of typical Iron Age dwellings. Could the Broch have been a center of power, both political and spiritual? Its towering presence may have been a symbol of status, a visual marker of authority and influence over the surrounding islands. Furthermore, the interior of the Broch contains several chambers that were likely used for storage or living quarters, but these spaces are remarkably small and cramped, especially considering the size of the structure itself. This has led some to speculate that the Broch was not meant to be a place for long-term habitation. Instead, it may have been a space used for ritual or ceremonial purposes, where the elite of the society would come to commune with the gods or to enact religious practices that are now lost to time. In addition to its mysterious architecture, there are other aspects of the Broch of Gurness that continue to perplex archaeologists. The site is scattered with the remnants of intricate stonework and artifacts, including pottery, animal bones, and tools. These objects are valuable for understanding the daily lives of the people who once inhabited Gurness, but they also hint at something more complex. The pottery found at Gurness is distinctive, and some of it bears designs that are not commonly seen in other Iron Age settlements. These patterns may have had a symbolic meaning, perhaps tied to a religious or social identity that is not fully understood. The bones of animals, meanwhile, reveal insights into the diet and economy of the people, showing that they relied heavily on both land and sea for sustenance. But were these animals sacrificed in rituals? Or were they a symbol of power, representing the connection between the human world and the natural forces of the earth? Perhaps the most perplexing element of Gurness, however, lies in the absence of clear evidence about who the inhabitants were and where they came from. While the Broch dates back to the Iron Age, the origins of its builders remain obscure. Was Gurness part of a local culture that developed organically over time, or was it influenced by outside forces? The Orkney Islands were, after all, a crossroads of ancient civilizations, with trading routes extending to Scandinavia, the British Isles, and beyond. Could the Broch be evidence of contact between the people of Orkney and other far-off civilizations? Or was Gurness a completely indigenous creation, an expression of the unique culture of the Orkney people? There are also those who argue that the Broch of Gurness was not built solely by the people of the Iron Age, but may have been constructed or used by an even earlier civilization, one whose knowledge of architecture and stonework was far beyond that of the period. Some fringe theories suggest that Gurness, along with other Brochs, could have been influenced by ancient pre-Iron Age peoples, perhaps even linked to lost civilizations like Atlantis or other mythic societies. While these theories remain speculative, they do raise interesting questions about the evolution of human societies and the potential for lost knowledge to resurface in surprising ways. As we consider these theories, it becomes clear that the Broch of Gurness represents far more than just an archaeological site. It is a testament to the ingenuity and complexity of an ancient society, one whose people left behind only fragments of their world, but whose legacy still echoes through the ages. The Broch stands as a silent reminder of a time when the boundaries between the earthly and the divine, the mundane and the sacred, were not so clearly defined. Its function, its meaning, and its purpose remain shrouded in mystery. Was it a military stronghold, a place of ritual, or something entirely different? Standing in the shadow of the Broch of Gurness, looking out over the sea, one can't help but wonder what other secrets remain hidden within the stones. What knowledge, long forgotten, lies buried beneath the earth at Gurness, waiting to be uncovered? And what, if anything, will we ever truly understand about the people who built it? The Broch's mystery endures, inviting us to continue searching for answers that may never fully come. But in its quiet majesty, it compels us to look deeper, to question the past, and to ponder what might still be hidden in the ruins of a civilization long since faded into history. From the windswept coastlines of the British Isles, we now turn our attention to the towering heights of a distant, ancient mountain. Here, in the heart of modern-day Turkey, lies one of the most awe-inspiring and enigmatic sites in the ancient world, Nemrut Dağ, or Mount Nemrut. Rising to an imposing 2,150 meters, 7,054 feet, this isolated peak is crowned by a vast, strange, and monumental complex, a collection of colossal stone heads and fragmented statues scattered across the summit. For centuries, the site has drawn travelers and scholars alike, all drawn by the mystery of its purpose and the origins of the figures that stand in silent, weathered witness to the past. At first glance, Nemrut Dağ appears like an untouched wilderness,
an inhospitable peak blanketed by rocky terrain and harsh weather conditions. Yet as you climb higher, the vast and imposing scale of the ruins gradually comes into view. Here, among the jagged rocks and scattered boulders, stand the remains of statues that are both enormous and hauntingly human. The heads, some measuring up to 2 meters in height, once belonged to larger-than-life figures that were part of a royal monument dedicated to the gods, yet the full meaning of these statues, who they represent, why they were placed here, and how they were constructed, remains shrouded in mystery. The site was first uncovered in the 19th century, but it has been studied for far longer, with historical references pointing back to the ancient kingdom of Commagene, which flourished in this region during the 1st century BC. The most widely accepted theory is that the statues were erected by King Antiochus I of Commagene, as a tribute to himself and to various gods and deities of the time. On the summit of Mount Nemrut, there are massive stone terraces, and on each, rows of statues, some of kings, others of gods, and still others of animals, are positioned in such a way that they all seem to gaze toward the rising and setting sun. It is this deliberate positioning that first piques curiosity. The monumental statues, which seem almost out of place amidst the rugged mountain landscape, are aligned with the summer and winter solstices, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. The figures, though weathered by centuries of exposure to the elements, still retain a sense of grandeur. Their faces, once intricately carved with vivid expressions, now bear the scars of time. Their eyes are hollowed out, their noses chipped, and their mouths eroded, but still they stand, silently guarding the summit, as if holding some sacred, forgotten knowledge. The arrangement of the statues, too, is worth noting. 2 large seated figures, thought to be depictions of Antiochus himself, sit at either side of the mountaintop, facing forward. Alongside these monumental figures are representations of various gods from different cultural traditions. Persian, Greek, and Armenian gods are all present, integrated into a single royal pantheon. Between these gods stand smaller, yet no less significant figures, lions, eagles, and even symbols of celestial bodies, each of which may have held particular meaning for the king and his kingdom. Despite the grandeur of the site, questions abound. If this was truly a royal monument, meant to honor Antiochus and his gods, why place it in such an isolated, inaccessible location? The location of Mount Nemrut is not just remote, it is difficult to reach even today, let alone during antiquity. The sheer effort it would have taken to transport the colossal statues and construct the terraces, let alone create the detailed stone carvings, is staggering. The location of the monument suggests a deeper, perhaps symbolic purpose. Could it have been a site of religious significance, a sacred space where the king communed with the gods in the heavens? Was the mountaintop intended to symbolize a bridge between earth and sky, where mortal kings could lay claim to divine power? The mysteries of Nemrut Dağ deepen when we consider the statue heads. Many of them are lying in fragments, scattered across the site, seemingly toppled and dismembered. How and why did these statues fall? Some have speculated that the statues were deliberately destroyed by invaders or later rulers who sought to erase the memory of Antiochus and his kingdom. After all, Antiochus I had a reputation for his fierce desire for immortality, having gone so far as to create a royal cult that would elevate his own status to that of the gods. Was this destruction part of a later attempt to dismantle that cult and suppress his memory? But there are other, more speculative theories. Some believe that the decapitated heads could represent a form of astronomical alignment, where the statues were strategically destroyed over time to correspond with celestial events or changes in the heavens. These theories argue that the alignment of the statues and their later dismemberment may have been part of a ritualistic process, perhaps designed to mark the passage of time, a significant celestial shift, or a symbolic rebirth of the kingship.
The idea of a cycle of destruction and rebirth resonates with the ancient belief in the periodic renewal of kingship, with the king being symbolically reborn through these rituals. Still, there are even more fringe theories that suggest Mount Nemrut could have had more esoteric purposes, ideas that stretch the boundaries of historical inquiry. Some suggest that the statues were not merely representations of earthly kings and gods, but symbols of an advanced, possibly lost civilization, whose understanding of astronomy and sacred geometry far surpassed that of other ancient cultures. Could Nemrut Dağ be a remnant of a forgotten knowledge, an attempt to capture the essence of cosmic order? Or perhaps, in a more mystical vein, was the site itself designed as a portal, a nexus where the boundaries between the human and divine worlds could be crossed? The site also contains a series of inscriptions, some of which provide insight into the construction of the monument, while others reveal the king's aspirations. One inscription claims that Antiochus wanted to be remembered not just as a mortal ruler, but as a divine figure, one who would be honored by future generations for his role in uniting different cultures and peoples. He sought to establish a legacy that transcended the physical, a legacy that would endure as an eternal connection between heaven and earth. But if this was Antiochus's ultimate goal, why did he choose to build it in such a remote and difficult-to-reach location? What was the true significance of Mount Nemrut? Was it simply a tomb, a place to honor the king's memory, or was it something far more sacred? And then there are those who wonder about the possibility of ancient civilizations that were far more advanced than we can imagine, cultures that mastered the arts of both stone and sky in ways that are lost to us today. The precise measurements of the statues, the astronomical alignments, and the careful blending of cultural influences suggest that those who built Nemrut Dağ had a sophisticated knowledge that we still struggle to comprehend. Could the creators of Nemrut Dağ have been guided by lost knowledge, passed down from an even older civilization, perhaps one that was steeped in secrets about the cosmos, celestial movements, and the nature of divinity? As we stand on the summit of Nemrut Dağ today, gazing at the crumbling stone heads that peer out into the distance, it's impossible not to feel a sense of wonder and awe. This ancient site, with its monumental statues and celestial alignments, speaks to a time when kings sought to transcend their mortal lives and become immortal in the eyes of the gods. But in the silence of the mountain, we are left to wonder, what truths have been lost to the ravages of time? What was the true purpose of these towering figures, these great monuments, and the lofty ambitions of a king who sought to be revered as divine? Perhaps the answers to these questions lie in the windswept valleys and hidden crevices of Mount Nemrut, waiting to be uncovered by those who are willing to continue the search for meaning. And perhaps the greatest mystery of all is simply this: what is still hidden, waiting to be revealed beneath the shadow of these ancient stone giants? As we leave behind the grandeur of Mount Nemrut, we now turn our attention to a more intimate yet equally enigmatic site, hidden in the rolling hills of the Irish countryside. Here, near the village of Rathgall in County Wicklow, lies an ancient fortress that has puzzled archaeologists and historians for centuries: the Rathgall Stone Fort. Its weathered stone walls rise gently from the surrounding landscape, blending into the terrain yet holding within them the whispers of a forgotten past. Unlike the monumental statues of Nemrut Dağ or the grand architectural designs of other ancient sites, Rathgall is quieter in its mystery, subtle in its presence, yet no less captivating. Rathgall Stone Fort is one of Ireland's finest examples of a hill fort, a type of prehistoric settlement that was often used as a defensive stronghold. Its location, atop a hill, provides a commanding view of the valley below, suggesting that the fort had strategic importance. The structure consists of multiple concentric stone walls, some still standing to a height of several meters. The walls encircle an area of about 3 acres, and within this space, a series of stone houses and a network of paths suggest that Rathgall was once a thriving settlement. Unlike the more familiar ring forts found throughout Ireland, Rathgall is vast, complex, and surrounded by a double set of stone walls, an indication of the fort's significant role in the region. The outer walls, which are the largest, enclose the entire settlement, while the inner walls enclose a central courtyard, which is thought to have been the heart of the community. At the center of this fortified complex, there are traces of larger structures, possibly the residence of a chief or important leader. The overall design of Rathgall points to a society that was organized and sophisticated, with careful attention paid to defense and the management of its resources. While the construction of Rathgall is impressive, it is the surrounding landscape that adds layers of mystery to the site. The fort sits near the top of a hill, but the hill itself is surrounded by a vast and ancient landscape of prehistoric burial mounds and cairns. The positioning of the fort in relation to these burial sites raises intriguing questions. Was Rathgall a military fortification, a religious site, or perhaps something else entirely? The answer is not so simple. One of the most striking features of Rathgall is its mysterious alignment with the surrounding monuments. The fort is not just strategically located in the landscape, it is carefully placed to align with the natural features of the land. Some have suggested that Rathgall may have been constructed with an understanding of astronomy, aligning its walls and entrances with significant solar or lunar events. Could the fort have had a ceremonial purpose, tied to ancient beliefs in the power of the sun and the moon? The intricate positioning of the walls and the spaces within them could indicate that Rathgall was more than just a practical fortress. It may have had a deeper symbolic role in the lives of its inhabitants. While many of the larger hill forts in Ireland date to the early Iron Age, Rathgall's history stretches back even further, to the late Bronze Age. This places the fort in a time when the people of Ireland were just beginning to transition from the use of stone tools to the introduction of metalworking. The precise date of Rathgall's construction remains unclear, with estimates ranging from the 10th to the 8th centuries BC. What is certain, however, is that the fort is an early example of a fortified settlement, and it seems to have been used for an extended period, suggesting that it held great significance for the people who built it. Yet, despite the extensive archaeological work that has been done at Rathgall, many questions remain. The most prominent of these is the nature of the people who lived here. Who were they? What was their social structure, and how did they interact with the surrounding communities? Did they have a written language, or was their culture purely oral? Given the fort's defensive nature, it's clear that the people of Rathgall were engaged in some form of conflict or competition with neighboring groups. But was this conflict local, or did it have broader implications, possibly involving larger tribal or regional powers? While many archaeologists believe that Rathgall was part of a larger network of hill forts in the region, there is little evidence to suggest that it was ever part of a unified political structure. Some speculate that Rathgall may have been a regional center for a powerful clan or family, acting as both a fortress and a political hub. The fort's massive walls, its intricate layout, and its strategic positioning all suggest that it was a place of considerable importance. But for whom? One theory is that Rathgall could have been a ritualistic site as much as a military one. The placement of the fort, with its alignment to the surrounding landscape, suggests a connection to the heavens, to the cycles of the sun and the moon. Could it have been a place where important rituals were carried out, where the community came together not just to defend itself, but to honor the gods? Were the leaders of Rathgall seen as intermediaries between the mortal world and the divine, with the fort serving as a sacred space where the earth and the sky were connected? Another possibility is that Rathgall was a trading hub, a place where people from different tribes and regions gathered to exchange goods. The nearby waterways and fertile lands would have made it a natural crossroads, a place where copper, gold, and other valuable resources could be traded. This theory suggests that Rathgall's defensive walls may not have been built just to protect against raiders, but to safeguard the wealth and resources of the community. If this was the case, Rathgall would have been more than just a fort. It would have been a center of commerce and power in the ancient world. Some fringe theories take the mystery of Rathgall even further, suggesting that the site was not just a human creation, but may have been influenced by external forces, perhaps even extraterrestrial ones. These theories often point to the unusual precision of the fort's construction and its alignment with the stars, arguing that such knowledge could not have been known to Bronze Age people. While these ideas remain speculative at best, they do raise an interesting question. How much ancient knowledge has been lost over the millennia? Could the people of Rathgall have had access to wisdom or technologies that we have yet to uncover? Despite these speculative ideas, the mainstream archaeological consensus remains that Rathgall was a highly sophisticated Bronze Age settlement, strategically located and carefully constructed to serve as both a fortification and a center of power. The evidence supports the idea that the people who built Rathgall were resourceful and organized, with a deep understanding of their environment and their place within it. But the true purpose of the fort, whether it was purely military, ceremonial, or something else entirely, remains elusive. Today, Rathgall Stone Fort stands as a silent monument to a long-lost civilization. Its walls, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, still hold the echoes of a people whose stories have largely faded from memory. Yet, the mystery of Rathgall endures, raising questions that continue to intrigue historians, archaeologists, and explorers alike. What was the true purpose of this ancient fort? Who were the people who built it, and what did they believe? And perhaps most haunting of all, what secrets lie buried beneath the stones of Rathgall, waiting to be uncovered by those who are willing to continue the search for answers? The answers may never fully be known, but the mystery remains, inviting us to look deeper, to question further, and to wonder what we might yet uncover in the shadow of this ancient stone fortress. As we move from the fortified walls of Rathgall, we now journey to a place where the land itself seems to whisper ancient secrets. On the windswept cliffs of the Aran Islands, in Ireland's westernmost reaches, stands Dun Aengus, an ancient fort that both daunts and mesmerizes all who venture to its precipice. Towering above the sea on Inishmore, the largest of the Aran Islands, this prehistoric site evokes awe not just because of its commanding position, but because of its air of mystery. Its crumbling stone walls, which rise dramatically against the horizon, appear to have been carved directly from the very rock beneath them, as though they have always been a part of the island itself. Dun Aengus is, in its essence, a fortress, but one unlike any other. Its construction, though simple by modern standards, speaks to the ingenuity and deep understanding of both the land and the sky that its builders must have possessed. The fort is made up of several concentric stone walls, each slightly smaller than the one before it, creating a dizzying series of terraces that spiral inward, culminating in the highest point of the site, where the view is as breathtaking as the mystery it holds. Below, the cliffs drop abruptly into the wild Atlantic Ocean, and for those standing at the edge, it is easy to understand why this place was chosen as a stronghold. The natural defense offered by the location is almost unbeatable. In ancient times, it would have been an ideal place to safeguard a community or clan, protected from both human and natural forces. Though Dun Aengus has long been accepted as a defensive structure, its true purpose remains a subject of speculation. Some believe it was a fortification used for protection, possibly against raiders or rival clans. However, the fort's design and the location of its entrance give rise to other interpretations. The high walls and narrow passageways suggest that Dun Aengus was not just a place of defense, but could also have served a ceremonial or religious purpose. There are no written records to tell us what its original inhabitants believed, or how they used the site, and no artifacts have been uncovered that shed light on the fort's specific function. Yet, the aura of mystery surrounding Dun Aengus calls attention to the possibilities that go beyond simple survival. One of the most intriguing features of Dun Aengus is its alignment with the natural world. The fortress is positioned with meticulous care so that it faces not just the ocean, but also specific landmarks across the water. Some scholars suggest that the site may have had symbolic or astronomical significance, its orientation reflecting a deep understanding of the cycles of nature, of the sun, moon, and stars. Was the fort built to mark a celestial alignment? Was it a place where rituals were performed during solstices or equinoxes, when the boundaries between earth and sky are thought to thin? The builders of Dun Aengus may have chosen this particular spot not only for its strategic advantage, but also for its connection to the greater cosmos, a sacred space where humans could communicate with the divine. The craftsmanship of the fort also raises questions. Dun Aengus, while not as elaborate as some other ancient structures, still demonstrates a sophisticated approach to construction. The stones of the walls are carefully fitted together, with no mortar between them, relying on the precision of their placement to hold the structure intact. The walls themselves are massive, some stones weighing several tons. How did the people who built this fort transport such large stones to the top of a cliff without the aid of modern tools? The fact that these walls have withstood the harsh winds and relentless tides of the Atlantic for thousands of years suggests that the builders possessed remarkable knowledge of engineering and construction techniques, some of which may have been lost to time. As we examine the site more closely, we begin to wonder about the people who lived here. Who were they? The current theory is that Dun Aengus was built by the Celts, who settled in Ireland around the 2nd millennium BC. However, the fort may have been constructed long before the Celts arrived, perhaps by an even older, pre-Celtic civilization that left behind few traces of its existence. Could the inhabitants of Dun Aengus have been part of a much earlier culture, one whose practices, knowledge, and way of life were vastly different from those that followed? This possibility becomes even more compelling when we consider the many ancient sites scattered across the Aran Islands, many of which share similar features with Dun Aengus. On Inishmore alone, there are numerous other stone structures, including early Christian sites, standing stones, and burial mounds. These structures suggest a long history of human occupation and a deep connection to the land and the sky. It is possible that Dun Aengus was just one piece of a much larger puzzle, a part of a complex network of sites that were used for both practical and spiritual purposes. What knowledge or beliefs might these ancient people have passed down through the generations? Was there a shared understanding of the world that transcended time, culture, and language? While mainstream archaeology suggests that Dun Aengus was a fortified settlement and a symbol of power, some fringe theories raise more outlandish possibilities. Could it have been a center of knowledge for an advanced civilization, a place of learning where astronomical and mathematical principles were passed on? Some theorists have even speculated that the site may have been a kind of watchtower for ancient astronomers who charted the movements of celestial bodies in a way that modern historians have yet to fully comprehend. There are those who wonder if Dun Aengus could have had more esoteric purposes, perhaps as a portal, a place where the boundaries between the earthly realm and the spiritual world were believed to be thinner. After all, many ancient cultures had such beliefs, constructing their most important sites in places where the natural world seemed to merge with the heavens. Could Dun Aengus have been built with this metaphysical connection in mind? The mystery of Dun Aengus grows deeper when we consider its isolation. The fort is not easily accessible. Visitors must traverse rough terrain to reach it, and even today, the journey to the site requires a commitment of time and effort. This suggests that the fort may have been a site reserved for a select few, perhaps only the most powerful or spiritually attuned members of society. Did it serve as a kind of spiritual retreat, a place where rulers, priests, or elders could commune with the gods and make important decisions. The fortress's dramatic positioning, perched at the edge of a cliff with the vast expanse of the ocean before it, would have certainly inspired feelings of awe and reverence. Could it have been designed to emphasize the separation between the mundane world and the divine? Adding to the mystery is the local folklore surrounding Dun Aengus. The site has long been associated with the ancient Tuatha Dé Danann, the mythical race of gods and kings in Irish mythology. According to legend, these gods inhabited the world of humans for a time, ruling over the land before retreating into the underworld. The association of Dun Aengus with these powerful beings raises the question of whether the fort was not just a place of human activity, but also a sacred space for the gods themselves. Could the construction of the fort have been a way to honor the Tuatha Dé Danann, a symbolic gesture meant to ensure divine protection? Or perhaps the site was meant to serve as a point of contact between the gods and humanity, a meeting place where the mortal and divine realms overlapped. Despite centuries of study and exploration, the full purpose of Dun Aengus remains shrouded in mystery. Was it a fortress, a religious center, a place of astronomical observation, or something entirely different? The enigmatic nature of the site only deepens the more we try to understand it. As we stand before its towering walls, we are left to wonder, what knowledge have we lost, and what truths are still hidden beneath the stone? What secrets does this ancient place continue to hold, and what might we still uncover if we look closer? The answers to these questions may never fully reveal themselves, but the mystery of Dun Aengus remains, a testament to a civilization whose connection to the land, the sky, and the divine is still beyond our comprehension. It is a place that invites us to look deeper, to question more, and to explore the secrets of the past that still lie waiting just beyond our reach. As we leave behind the windswept cliffs of Dun Aengus, we turn our focus to a site that holds its own silent enigma, nestled away on the island of Malta in the Mediterranean Sea. Here, far from the bustling modern world, lies a quiet, forgotten sanctuary of stone, the Skorba Temples. These ancient structures, hidden beneath centuries of soil, have slowly revealed their secrets to archaeologists, yet much about their purpose and the people who built them remains a mystery. Located in the central part of Malta, the Skorba Temples are among the earliest known religious sites on the island, dating back to around 3600 BC, a time when the ancient Mediterranean world was just beginning to take shape. The complex consists of two distinct temples, each constructed from large megalithic stones, their surfaces weathered by millennia of harsh winds and saltwater breezes. These stones, some weighing several tons, were carefully cut and fitted together to form walls and internal chambers. The walls are curved, not straight, and this peculiar construction gives the temples an almost organic feel, an impression as though the structures grew out of the land itself, rather than being deliberately shaped by human hands. What strikes you immediately upon visiting Skorba is not just the vastness of the stones, but the sense of age that permeates the site. The silence of the temples is overwhelming. The surrounding landscape, with its gently sloping hills, olive trees, and scrubland, seems to stretch forever, offering only the faintest trace of human intervention. Yet, despite its natural beauty, there's an underlying eeriness to the place. The temple complex, now just a shadow of its former self, is scattered with remnants, pieces of pottery, animal bones, and small, unassuming fragments of sculpture that speak to a society long forgotten, yet deeply connected to the land. These temples stand as silent witnesses to a culture that understood the rhythms of the earth in ways that we can only begin to appreciate. The layout of the Skorba Temples follows a design that was later adopted by other megalithic sites on Malta, such as the famous Gantija temples. However, what makes Skorba unique is its earlier date and its simpler, more understated construction. The lack of grandeur in its design stands in stark contrast to other, more elaborate temple complexes that would follow. Yet, the very simplicity of Skorba raises questions. Was this temple complex a place of early experimentation, a test site for larger religious or social concepts? Or could it have been something more profound, something that we still cannot fully comprehend? The people who constructed the Skorba temples are believed to have been part of the Maltese Neolithic culture, a society that flourished on the island long before the arrival of outside influences. The Maltese islands, including Malta, Gozo, and Comino, were settled by humans around 5200 BC, but it wasn't until much later, around 3600 BC, that the temple-building culture truly began to emerge. These temples, some of the oldest freestanding structures in the world, are believed to have served religious or ceremonial purposes, though their exact function remains unclear. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of animal sacrifices at Skorba, as well as traces of offerings made to the gods, such as pottery fragments and personal items. These discoveries suggest that the temples were, indeed, places of worship, where the ancient inhabitants of Malta sought to connect with the divine. The presence of animal bones, particularly those of cattle and pigs, hints at ritualistic practices, possibly aimed at appeasing deities or ensuring bountiful harvests. But which gods did they worship? What were their beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife? And perhaps most puzzling of all, why were these massive temples constructed in the first place? Some researchers suggest that Skorba, like many other prehistoric temple sites, was linked to astronomical observations. The layout of the temples seems to follow a specific alignment with the rising and setting sun, hinting that the builders may have had knowledge of the celestial cycles. Could the temples have been designed to track the movement of the stars, the moon, and the sun? Was Skorba a place where ancient peoples sought to understand their place in the cosmos, perhaps marking the passage of the seasons or performing rites tied to the equinoxes and solstices? The idea that these temples were built with astronomical knowledge in mind is supported by the many other megalithic structures found throughout the Mediterranean world, where alignment with celestial bodies seems to have played an important role. Yet, despite the obvious connection to astronomical cycles, some archaeologists argue that the temples were simply places of community gathering and religious expression. Skorba, in this view, is seen not as a site of advanced knowledge, but as part of a broader, culturally rich tradition of megalithic architecture that served more immediate social and spiritual needs. The people who built these temples may have been focused not on celestial alignments, but on their relationships with the earth and the forces they could control directly: rain, harvests, fertility. In this sense, the temples at Skorba were deeply embedded in the lives of those who lived here. However, as with many ancient sites, there are those who push the boundaries of conventional explanations and suggest that Skorba might have served a much broader purpose, perhaps even linked to the mysterious Atlantean legends of a lost advanced civilization. While this theory remains speculative and unsupported by mainstream archaeology, it is nonetheless intriguing. Could the Skorba temples be the remnants of a forgotten society that had knowledge and technologies far beyond the people who followed? Some have suggested that the builders of Skorba could have been part of a lost global network of cultures, ancient seafarers or traders who shared knowledge across vast distances. The very complexity and precision of these early temple constructions may hint at knowledge lost to history. Perhaps even more intriguing are the mysterious carvings found in and around the Skorba temples. These enigmatic symbols, etched into the stones, have baffled archaeologists for years. Their meanings remain unclear, though some researchers have speculated that they could be symbolic representations of the cosmos, fertility, or the afterlife. Could these carvings be a form of early writing? Or were they simply decorative motifs, a form of artistic expression tied to the spiritual life of the people? It's possible that these symbols once held significant meaning, a language of the gods or a coded system of knowledge. But if that's the case, what happened to that knowledge? Where did it go, and why was it lost? One of the most compelling aspects of the Skorba Temples is the sense that the site holds more answers than we have yet been able to uncover. The alignment of the temples, the carvings on the stones, and the evidence of ritual practices all point to a highly sophisticated culture, one that may have understood forces beyond their immediate environment. Yet, despite the careful excavation and analysis, there is still much we don't know about the people who built these temples. Their beliefs, their knowledge, and their motivations remain elusive, hidden beneath layers of time and earth. As we walk the sacred grounds of the Skorba Temples, we are left to ponder the deep mysteries they hold. Were these temples truly dedicated to gods, or did they serve another, as yet unknown, purpose? Did the builders of Skorba have knowledge of the stars, or were they focused only on the more immediate concerns of life and death? And perhaps most compelling of all, what can we learn from this ancient site? And what knowledge might still lie buried in the stones, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? The Skorba Temples, with their serene beauty and quiet mystery, invite us to look beyond the veil of time, to consider the wisdom of those who came before us, and to wonder what we might still learn from their ancient, stone-built world. As we leave behind the sacred silence of Malta's ancient temples, we turn now to the distant lands of Greece, to the heart of Mycenaean civilization, where another monumental mystery awaits, one that has baffled archaeologists and historians for centuries. Perched on the slopes of the hills near the ancient city of Mycenae, there stands an extraordinary structure, a tomb that has long fascinated both scholars and visitors alike. The Beehive tomb of Atreus, also known as the Treasury of Atreus. This tomb, built around 1250 BC, is a testament to the advanced engineering capabilities of the Mycenaean people, yet it also presents us with an enigma that has yet to be fully understood. Unlike the conventional burial mounds or pyramids found throughout ancient civilizations, the Beehive tomb is unique in its construction. A tholos tomb, its walls rise in a perfectly circular shape, gradually tapering to a point, resembling the appearance of a beehive, hence the name. The massive structure is made of precisely hewn limestone blocks, with each stone fitting seamlessly into the next. The tomb itself is massive, with a diameter of nearly 15 meters and a height that would have been even more impressive before time took its toll. As you approach the site, the sheer scale of the tomb is immediately apparent. The entrance is crowned by a monumental triangular lintel, a massive stone that is said to weigh around 120 tons, no small feat for the Mycenaeans, who lacked the advanced technology of later civilizations. The lintel rests atop the entrance, its weight perfectly balanced, giving the impression that it has defied the passage of time, as if it were deliberately placed to withstand centuries of wear and tear. And as you walk through the doorway, the air inside is cool and still, untouched by the world outside, as if the tomb were frozen in time. The interior, a vast chamber, was once adorned with precious artifacts and treasures, a final resting place for a figure of immense importance. But who was buried here? The most prominent theory suggests that the tomb was intended for Atreus, the legendary king of Mycenae from Greek mythology, the father of Agamemnon and Menelaus, two of the central figures in the Iliad. Yet despite the clear connection to the mythological world, there is no definitive evidence to prove that Atreus himself lies within the tomb. The mystery deepens when we consider the tomb's purpose. Was it merely a royal burial chamber, or did it serve a more symbolic role in the Mycenaean worldview? The tomb is undeniably impressive in its architecture, but it's the scale of its construction that truly raises questions. Why go to such lengths to build a burial structure of this magnitude for a single individual, especially when the Mycenaean practice of burial usually involved more modest tombs for lesser figures? The sheer grandeur of the Beehive tomb of Atreus suggests it was meant to be something far more significant than a mere burial site. Was it a statement of power, a symbolic gesture meant to assert the greatness of the ruler buried inside? Or was it designed to ensure the ruler's immortality, to create a monument that would endure for millennia and inspire awe in all who gazed upon it? As we look closer, we see that the tomb's design holds further mysteries. The perfectly constructed dromos, or passageway leading to the tomb, is long, about 36 meters, and is lined with carefully arranged stones, some of which are larger than the rest. This corridor creates a sense of awe as you approach the tomb itself, making the act of entering feel like a journey into another realm. Once inside, the massive dome looms overhead, an engineering marvel, and the structure is so well built that it has survived thousands of years of earthquakes, looting, and decay. The fact that this structure has withstood the ravages of time speaks to the exceptional skill of its builders. Yet despite its enduring physicality, the deeper meaning of the tomb remains elusive. In the absence of definitive proof regarding the identity of the individual buried inside, alternative theories abound. Some suggest that the tomb may have been constructed for a different, perhaps even more significant figure in Mycenaean history, one who has been lost to time. Could it have been a king whose name has not survived in the historical record, whose reign was so powerful that his tomb was built on a scale befitting a god? Or could the tomb have been built for a figure whose significance went beyond the political? Someone whose role in Mycenaean society was tied to religious or ceremonial duties? The mythological connections are tempting, but they raise more questions than answers. Was Atreus truly a king in the historical sense, or was he a symbolic figure created by the Greeks to embody their ideals of leadership and power? Theories about the tomb's construction methods add another layer of intrigue. The tholos structure itself is a marvel of ancient engineering. The precise way in which the stones were cut and placed, the sheer size of the lintel stone, and the alignment of the tomb suggest that the Mycenaeans possessed knowledge of architectural principles far ahead of their time. But how did they manage to build such a structure without the advanced technology that we might expect for a project of this scale? Was it done purely by hand, through sheer labor and ingenuity, or were there lost technologies and forgotten methods employed to achieve this feat? Could the Mycenaeans have had access to knowledge or techniques that were later lost to history? Some have even speculated that the tomb was not constructed for a human king at all, but rather as part of a larger ritual, perhaps tied to the worship of deities or celestial events. The symmetry and precision of the tomb's design may indicate a deeper connection to the heavens. The use of the number 3, a number sacred to many ancient cultures, appears in the alignment of the tomb's entrance and passageway. Could this have been a ritualistic design meant to align with celestial events or to honor specific gods associated with the afterlife? Was the Beehive tomb a structure that bridged the gap between the mortal world and the divine? Despite the speculation and the many theories, the Beehive tomb of Atreus remains one of the most captivating mysteries of the ancient world. Who was the tomb built for, and why was such an extraordinary structure constructed in their honor? Was it a royal tomb, or was it something more? What hidden knowledge might the Mycenaeans have possessed, and why have so many of their secrets remained concealed for so long? As we stand before the towering stones of the Beehive tomb, the unanswered questions seem to echo through the ages. The tomb's silence is profound, inviting us to wonder whether we will ever truly understand its purpose and the civilization that created it. What mysteries still lie buried beneath the stones, waiting to be uncovered by future generations? And might we one day discover the true story behind the tomb of Atreus? Or is it destined to remain an enigma, locked in the eternal embrace of time? As we continue our journey through some of the most enigmatic archaeological sites on Earth, we now turn to a location that blends the mystical with the divine, a sacred complex that has long evaded full understanding. Nestled in the hills of ancient Anatolia, near the modern-day town of Aydın in Turkey, lies the Tralleis sacred complex, a site that once was a grand center of worship, yet today remains shrouded in mystery. The Tralleis sacred complex was the heart of the ancient city of Tralleis, which, during its peak in the 3rd century BC, was a flourishing and important center of the Greek world. What remains today, though, are only the ruins, silent relics of a long-lost culture, whispering only fragments of their former grandeur. The most striking feature of the site is the Temple of Artemis, a massive structure dedicated to the goddess Artemis, one of the most powerful deities in the ancient Greek pantheon. The temple, though now only partially reconstructed, was once renowned for its size and its grandeur. Built atop a rise overlooking the valley, the temple commanded the landscape as much as it did the spiritual lives of the people who worshipped there. The sheer scale of the temple is awe-inspiring even in its ruined state. Towering columns, each once meticulously carved and adorned, still stand as sentinels to a forgotten world. The central space of the temple would have been filled with statues, altars, and offerings dedicated to the goddess. But despite the incredible size and beauty of the structure, little is known about its true purpose. Was it merely a place for religious observance? Or was there something more, something hidden in its design and function? In the heart of the sacred complex, there is an ancient altar, a stone platform that, when examined closely, offers tantalizing clues about the nature of the rituals that were performed there. The altar is unlike any other found in the region, with carvings that seem to depict cosmic cycles, celestial bodies, and the movement of the heavens. This raises an important question. Was the temple merely a place of worship, or did it also serve as a kind of astronomical observatory? The precision of the carvings, coupled with the alignment of certain structures, suggests that the ancient people of Tralleis may have been far more advanced in their understanding of the cosmos than we give them credit for. Could it be that the Temple of Artemis was built not only to honor the goddess, but also to align with the stars, to harness the power of celestial forces in their rituals? As we continue to explore the complex, it becomes clear that the Tralleis sacred complex may have been part of something much larger, something beyond the typical understanding of religious structures. There are hints that it was not only a spiritual center, but also a site for astronomical rites, and perhaps even astrological practices. The surrounding landscape, dotted with other smaller shrines and altars, seems to follow a deliberate pattern, as though the entire region was designed to mirror the heavens. Could this sacred space have been a reflection of the cosmos itself, a microcosm of the universe built to allow the people of Tralleis to commune with the divine on a celestial scale? But it's not just the structure and layout of the site that mystify us. There are unanswered questions about the rituals that took place within the complex. Though some written records survive, detailing aspects of Greek religious practices, there is little to definitively explain what occurred within the walls of the Tralleis temple. Some scholars suggest that the site may have been used for initiation rites, a place where followers of Artemis and other deities underwent spiritual transformations, entering into deeper realms of understanding and consciousness. Could it be that the ancient worshippers of Artemis were engaged in secret rites meant to bring them closer to the gods and the hidden knowledge of the universe? The carvings on the altar could suggest as much, pointing to symbols of transformation, death, and rebirth, rituals that go far beyond what we typically associate with traditional religious ceremonies. Beyond the known temple, the larger Tralleis site holds even more mysteries. Fortifications, once thought to be part of the city's defensive structures, show signs of having been deliberately designed to reflect celestial alignments. The layout of the walls, the positioning of gateways, and the location of various smaller shrines seem to have been carefully planned with an astronomical purpose in mind. Were the Tralleis people attempting to communicate with higher powers? Or were they creating a physical manifestation of the heavens, a terrestrial version of the stars to connect their world to the divine? This astronomical connection is further emphasized by the findings of several artifacts discovered at the site. Ancient astrolabes and observational instruments, tools believed to have been used for calculating the movements of celestial bodies. These objects suggest that the people of Tralleis were highly skilled in astronomical observation, possibly tracking the movement of stars and planets for purposes unknown. Were they charting time, predicting seasons, or perhaps something far more esoteric, attempting to discern the will of the gods through the movements of the heavens? The complexity of these instruments hints at a culture with a level of scientific knowledge far more advanced than many of its contemporaries. It's not inconceivable that the people of Tralleis were among the earliest to understand the importance of celestial mechanics in their daily lives. As we consider the intricate relationship between the Temple of Artemis and the cosmos, we are left to wonder, did the people of Tralleis truly understand the universe in a way that has been lost to history? Was their connection to the stars and the divine far more profound than mere superstition? The astronomical alignments, the sacred geometry, and the ritualistic artifacts all point to something more, something that modern archaeology has yet to fully uncover. Could it be that we have missed key elements of their spiritual and intellectual life, believing their practices to be mere religious observances, when they might have been engaged in far more complex and cosmic understandings of existence? The Tralleis sacred complex is a striking reminder of how much we have yet to learn about ancient civilizations, and how often the deeper truths of these cultures remain hidden, buried beneath layers of time and history. The altar's carvings, the astronomical instruments, and the deliberate layout of the sacred spaces all suggest a culture deeply attuned to the heavens and to the cycles of nature. Yet, we can only speculate about the full extent of their knowledge and practices. Were the people of Tralleis seeking to understand the divine through the stars, or were they simply trying to connect their earthly existence to something much greater than themselves? As we stand before the ruins of this sacred space, we are left with a lingering question. What was the true purpose of the Tralleis sacred complex? Was it a mere temple to Artemis, or did it serve a far greater purpose, one tied to the very fabric of the cosmos? The answers remain elusive, and as we continue to peel back the layers of history, one thing is clear. The mystery of Tralleis is far from solved, and perhaps, as with so many ancient sites, the deeper we look, the more questions arise, leaving us to wonder if some mysteries are simply meant to remain unsolved. As we continue our journey through some of the most enigmatic ancient sites known to humankind, we now find ourselves in the far western reaches of France, on the Brittany coast. Here, nestled in the dense forests of Carnac, lies a landscape so steeped in mystery that even after centuries of research, no definitive answers have emerged. This is a place of stone and silence, where thousands of standing stones, alignments, and mysterious structures stretch out in patterns that continue to defy explanation. Among the most intriguing aspects of Carnac are the alignment satellites, a series of smaller stones placed in relation to the massive menhirs that populate the site. These smaller, yet strategically placed stones are often overlooked, but they may hold the key to understanding the true purpose behind this ancient monument. To stand in the midst of Carnac is to feel the weight of time. The site, with its vast network of over 3,000 stones, spans several millennia, dating back as far as 4,500 BC. The alignments themselves stretch for miles across the landscape, forming straight lines of stones that point toward the horizon or specific celestial bodies. Their exact purpose has long been the subject of debate. Were they astronomical observatories, places of religious worship, or markers for some lost ritual? It is clear that the alignment of these stones was a highly deliberate act, so deliberate, in fact, that it challenges the notion that the people who built them were simply primitive or superstitious. Could they have understood celestial mechanics on a level we still do not fully comprehend? In this vast sea of standing stones, the alignment satellites,
Smaller stones located at strategic points within the larger grid add a layer of complexity to the puzzle. These stones are not scattered randomly. Rather, they seem to follow a precise logic. They are often found in smaller groups or solitary arrangements that appear to mirror the layout of the larger menhirs, as though they were markers, guides, or even tools for a larger ritualistic or astronomical purpose. The arrangement of these stones doesn't simply follow the physical geography of the land, but also hints at a possible connection to the stars and planets. What is particularly fascinating about these smaller alignment stones is that their placement is often tied to astronomical phenomena. Some alignments are believed to point directly to the position of the sunrise or sunset on the solstices, while others are oriented toward the moon or specific star clusters. The precision with which these stones are arranged, despite the primitive technology of the time, suggests an understanding of astronomy that is staggering in its sophistication. But if the builders of these stone alignments possessed this knowledge, how did they acquire it? Was it simply a matter of careful observation over time, or was there a deeper, more profound understanding of the celestial world at play? The term satellites, applied to these smaller stones, raises further questions. In the modern sense, a satellite is an object that orbits a larger body, often a planet or star. Could it be that the ancient people of Carnac were creating their own symbolic system of celestial bodies, placing these smaller stones in orbit around their larger menhirs, as if to mirror the motions of the stars and planets? Was this alignment a way to connect the earthly realm with the heavens, or was it a representation of the cosmological order that governed the universe? The symmetry and orderliness of these smaller stones suggest that the ancient builders were not merely constructing a series of haphazard markers, but rather an intricate model of the cosmos itself. What makes the satellites of Carnac particularly intriguing is their possible connection to the much larger and more famous stone structures, Stonehenge in England, for example, or the Giza pyramids in Egypt. These distant monuments, like the stones at Carnac, seem to have been constructed with an awareness of celestial cycles and astronomical alignments. Some researchers have even suggested that there may be a connection between the stones of Carnac and other ancient megalithic sites around the world, sites built in a similar pattern, following the same celestial logic. Were the builders of Carnac part of a larger, even more widespread ancient tradition, one that spanned continents and millennia? Could these satellites be part of a much larger network of knowledge, passed down through secretive or sacred means? Intriguingly, some theorists suggest that these alignment satellites could also have served as markers for ritualistic practices that are now lost to history. Did they function as symbolic representations of the universe, or as part of a larger religious or spiritual system? The sheer number of stones and their precise alignment suggest that these people had a deep connection to the natural world, one that was built upon a profound understanding of the cycles of the moon, the sun, and the stars. But if this was truly the case, why did the knowledge of these practices seem to disappear so suddenly, leaving only traces of a forgotten past? And if the satellites were indeed part of a ritualistic tradition, what were the rituals that took place around these stones? Were they connected to the phases of the moon or the changing of the seasons? Were they designed to mark the time of the harvest, or were they part of a more esoteric understanding of the universe, an attempt to capture the spiritual energy that flowed between the heavens and the earth? The satellite stones, while largely forgotten or ignored by mainstream archaeology, offer a subtle but profound clue to the true nature of the Carnac alignments. It is tempting to dismiss these smaller stones as mere afterthoughts, insignificant in comparison to the towering menhirs and large stone circles. But as we look closer, it becomes clear that these seemingly insignificant stones may hold the key to unlocking the deeper mystery of Carnac itself. If we consider the possibility that these satellites were intentionally placed to mirror the stars, to chart the heavens, or to facilitate the observation of celestial events, we begin to see a picture of the site that is far more complex and far-reaching than we had previously imagined. But there remains a haunting question that hangs over the entire site. What was the true purpose of the Carnac alignments and their satellites? Were they markers of time, tools for astronomical observation, or sacred symbols tied to rituals and beliefs that have been lost to history? Despite centuries of study, archaeologists and researchers have yet to uncover definitive answers to these questions. And as we continue to delve into the mysteries of ancient stone sites like Carnac, we are reminded that there are still many unanswered questions about the ancient world. Perhaps the satellites of Carnac will always remain as silent sentinels, pointing to the heavens but refusing to reveal their full story. Or perhaps, in time, the stones will speak again, and the secrets of the Carnac alignments will finally be understood. For now, though, we can only gaze at the stones and wonder, what mysteries do they still hide beneath their ancient surfaces? Nestled in the heart of Cambodia, hidden away from the well-trodden paths of tourist maps, lies a site that has puzzled historians and archaeologists for over a century. Sambor Prei, an ancient complex of brick temples that predates the more famous Angkor Wat by several centuries. Unlike the towering spires and grandiosity of Angkor, the temples of Sambor Prei have a quieter, more enigmatic presence. Covered by the dense green jungle, the site is partially swallowed by the tropical growth, giving it an air of mystery and abandonment. To visit Sambor Prei is to step into a forgotten world, where time seems to have held its breath, and where the echoes of ancient rituals and lost histories linger, waiting to be rediscovered. The brick temples of Sambor Prei are believed to date back to the 7th century AD, constructed during the reign of the Chenla Kingdom, a precursor to the Khmer Empire. The site is home to dozens of structures, most of which are small, intricately designed brick temples surrounded by crumbling walls, staircases, and pathways that wind through the jungle. While they lack the grandeur of their more famous successors in Angkor, the temples at Sambor Prei are remarkable in their architectural complexity, with ornate carvings, intricate stonework, and sophisticated construction techniques. They are crafted almost entirely from brick, a material that was less common in temple construction at the time, and that adds an element of uniqueness to this site. But while the craftsmanship is impressive, it is the mystery of the site that continues to elude researchers. Much about Sambor Prei remains unknown, and many of the questions surrounding it have yet to be answered. Why did the Chenla Kingdom choose to build such an elaborate, albeit isolated, religious complex in the middle of a dense jungle? What purpose did the temples serve? Were they merely religious structures, or did they have a deeper, more esoteric function? Why was the site abandoned around the 10th century? Some suggest that the site's ritualistic significance was linked to an ancient cosmology and a desire to align the structures with celestial events, much like other ancient megalithic sites across the world. But even as the evidence suggests an extraordinary understanding of geometry and astronomy, many of the stones and carvings have been so worn down by centuries of exposure to the elements that it is impossible to fully decipher the intent behind the temple layout. One of the most curious aspects of Sambor Prei is the alignment of its temples, which seems to follow a strict celestial pattern. Similar to other ancient sites like the pyramids of Giza and Stonehenge, many of the temples in this complex appear to be aligned with significant astronomical phenomena, such as the solstices or the positions of certain stars in the night sky. The most notable temple at Sambor Prei Prasat Sambor, is oriented with uncanny precision toward the rising sun during the solstices, a detail that suggests the site may have had an astronomical purpose. Could it have been an observatory of sorts, or perhaps a center for celestial worship? The fact that the temples are constructed from brick, a material not commonly associated with astronomical sites, adds to the mystery. Why would such an ancient civilization invest so much effort into building temples that seem to serve an astronomical purpose in an environment that did not have the advanced tools of modern science?
Interestingly, the main structures of Sambor Prei appear to be designed with intricate, almost mysterious carvings of divine figures, animals, and symbols that could hold some clue to the site's true significance. The depictions of celestial bodies, including the sun and moon, suggest that the temples may have had a profound connection to the heavens. Some of the carvings are so detailed that they appear to portray events or gods associated with specific celestial alignments. Could these carvings have been meant as markers for ritualistic observances, or were they representations of cosmological beliefs shared by the people of the Chenla kingdom? As much as they seem to offer insight into the ancient civilization's worldview, these carvings also pose more questions than answers. One particular mystery lies within the temple foundations, which are arranged in a way that suggests sacred geometry. The precise layout of the buildings, the careful spacing between them, and the choice of sacred sites within the temple complex all point to a belief system deeply rooted in the idea of cosmic order. It is not dissimilar to other ancient cultures, such as those of Egypt or Mesopotamia, where architectural structures were aligned with divine or celestial forces. The geometric precision displayed in the temple layout suggests that the builders of Sambor Prei had access to an advanced understanding of mathematics, yet no evidence has been found to explain how they could have possessed such knowledge so early in history. Was it simply an intuitive grasp of the natural world, passed down through generations of spiritual leaders? Or was there some hidden, more esoteric source of knowledge that guided them? As we delve deeper into the site's history, we find ourselves confronted with even more enigmatic questions. Why did the site fall into disuse by the 10th century? Despite its evident importance to the people of the Chenla kingdom, Sambor Prei was abandoned in favor of other religious centers as the region transitioned into the early Khmer Empire. This shift raises questions about the political or spiritual reasons for its decline. Did the collapse of the Chenla kingdom lead to the loss of the site's significance? Or was there a change in religious belief that rendered the temples obsolete? Some speculate that the rise of new, more powerful deities or the integration of new religious practices may have contributed to the abandonment of this once sacred space. There are also theories that suggest that Sambor Prei was not merely abandoned due to shifting political or religious ideologies, but that it may have been intentionally concealed by its own builders. Some have pointed to the dense forest that now envelops the site as evidence of an ancient effort to hide the temples, possibly to protect them from outside invaders or to preserve the sacredness of the location. This theory is based on the idea that the temples were too powerful to simply fall into disuse. Were the people who built Sambor Prei trying to protect the site, or were they deliberately ensuring that the knowledge contained within would be lost to the ages? While many aspects of Sambor Prei remain hidden beneath layers of time and overgrowth, the mystery that surrounds it continues to captivate modern researchers. Was it simply an isolated religious center, a reflection of the Chenla kingdom's devotion to the celestial bodies and the gods? Or did it serve a much larger, more profound purpose, possibly linked to the ancient cosmology that tied earthly and celestial realms together? What, if anything, did the builders of Sambor Prei know about the heavens that we do not yet understand? As the jungle continues to reclaim the temples and the passage of time erodes their structure, we may never know the full story of Sambor Prei. Yet the allure of its brick temples, with their celestial alignments and intricate carvings, invites us to wonder. What secrets are still waiting to be uncovered? What ancient knowledge remains hidden in these silent stones, waiting for the right moment to reveal its mysteries to those who are willing to listen? For now, Sambor Prei remains a testament to a civilization that was far more in tune with the cosmos than we have yet understood, and a reminder that the questions of our past are far from answered. In the quiet, windswept landscape of Lochmariacar, a small village on the Brittany coast of France, lies one of the most perplexing and awe-inspiring remnants of the ancient world,
the Grand Menhir Base. While the megalithic structures of Europe, such as those at Stonehenge or the Carnac alignments, have long captured the imagination of archaeologists and the general public alike, few places hold as much mystery and potential as the Grand Menhir Base. This ancient monument, standing in isolation, gives us a tantalizing glimpse into a time when colossal stones were erected not only to mark the landscape, but to serve as symbols of cosmic significance. At first glance, the Grand Menhir Base might seem like a relatively simple ruin, a weathered stone platform embedded in the earth, its edges worn smooth by centuries of exposure to the elements. Yet it is far more than a mere artifact of the past. It is the footprint of something far greater, something ambitious, and possibly beyond our full understanding. What was once a towering stone pillar, now reduced to just a base, stands as an eerie reminder of a time long past, when a single stone, almost 20 meters tall, was erected with the intent to reach the heavens. The Grand Menhir is believed to have been one of the largest standing stones ever erected by humans, a megalithic giant that likely held deep spiritual significance for the people who shaped it. But why was it created in such a monumental scale, and why, after its apparent destruction, does the base still stand, whispering of forgotten rituals? The Grand Menhir Base is part of a larger archaeological complex found at Lochmariaquer, a site that also contains stone circles, dolmens, and other megalithic structures scattered across the land. The Grand Menhir itself is believed to have been constructed sometime around 4500 BC, during the Neolithic period, a time when early humans began to engage in monumental architecture, crafting large stone structures to align with celestial events, religious beliefs, and social organization. This was an era before written language, where the knowledge of the universe was passed down through oral traditions, and the stars, the seasons, and the forces of nature played central roles in shaping the lives of these early peoples. As it stood, likely soaring 20 meters high, the Grand Menhir would have been an unmistakable landmark, visible from great distances. It was not only an engineering marvel of its time, but its sheer scale suggests that it had more than just a practical purpose. The stone was carefully shaped and placed with incredible precision, but its meaning, its deeper spiritual significance, remains an enigma. Why create something so grand, so imposing, and yet so fragile? What did it represent to those who erected it? Was it a symbol of power, or was it an offering to the gods, an attempt to bridge the gap between humanity and the divine? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Grand Menhir Base lies in the destruction of the menhir itself. In the centuries following its erection, the grand stone was toppled, broken into pieces, and likely destroyed. Some researchers speculate that this event may have been symbolic, a deliberate act of ritual destruction intended to mark the end of an era or the transition between phases of spiritual belief. Others suggest that the menhir's collapse could have been the result of natural forces, earthquakes, or the gradual erosion of the stone. However, the mystery remains unresolved. The deliberate destruction of such an awe-inspiring structure raises more questions than it answers. Could the menhir have been sacrificed as part of a ritualistic event? Or was its collapse the result of a gradual loss of faith or relevance in the people who once revered it? In addition to the physical characteristics of the Grand Menhir Base, another layer of intrigue is added by the alignment of the megalithic stones at Lochmariaquer. The site is arranged with precision, and many of the structures, including the menhirs and surrounding dolmens, are oriented in a way that suggests a connection to celestial phenomena. Some researchers propose that these stones were not randomly placed, but instead had a purpose tied to the movement of the stars, the sun, or the moon. The location of the Grand Menhir Base, along with its surrounding megaliths, points to an advanced knowledge of astronomy and geometric principles. Could the positioning of these stones have been part of a larger ritual calendar, marking solstices,
equinoxes, or even the rising of particular stars. The alignment of the stones, when combined with the extraordinary size of the grand menhir, raises the possibility that this site was used not just for ceremonial purposes, but as a place of astronomical observation, a cosmological center where the people of Lochmariacar could attune themselves to the movements of the heavens. One particularly curious feature of the site is the presence of several other megaliths in the area, some of which show signs of being intentionally broken or altered in unusual ways. This, too, feeds into the mystery surrounding the Grand Menhir base. What did these alterations mean? Did they signify a change in belief systems, a shift in the social or religious dynamics of the people who built the menhir? Could these stones have been deliberately reworked, their purpose twisted or erased in some way, as part of a ritual of cultural transformation? Adding another layer to the mystery is the fact that the Grand Menhir base is situated in an area of outstanding natural beauty, an isolated spot where the land meets the sea. It is not merely an archaeological site, it is a place that, like other sacred landscapes, exudes a sense of spiritual connection. The sea and sky are often visible in the distance, and the horizon would have been an important reference point for ancient peoples who relied on the heavens for guidance. Was the Grand Menhir intended as a symbol of unity, connecting the earth to the sky, the human world to the divine? Could the menhir have been seen as a gateway or a bridge, a tangible expression of humanity's desire to reach beyond the mortal plane and touch the eternal? Despite these compelling clues, the purpose of the Grand Menhir and its destruction remain unclear. Some argue that the site was not only an astronomical observatory, but also a ritual center, a place where sacrifices and offerings were made to the gods. But why destroy something so monumental? Was it a reflection of a shift in spiritual practice, a transition from one era to another? Or did the collapse signal the loss of a once thriving belief system, an abandonment of the celestial rituals that had once bound the people of Lochmariacar to the cosmos? In considering these questions, it becomes clear that Lochmariacar, and the Grand Menhir base in particular, offers a window into a world that has long been lost to time. The answers we seek may never fully come to light, but the site itself, still standing after thousands of years, whispers of ancient knowledge and power that we may never truly understand. What drove the builders of the menhir to construct such a monumental structure, and what were they hoping to achieve? Why was it toppled, and what did that act of destruction mean? Perhaps, in the end, the Grand Menhir remains a symbol not just of the mysteries of the past, but of the ever-present human need to search for meaning in the stars, in the stones, and in the spaces between the two. And as the wind continues to sweep across the land of Lochmariacar, we are left to wonder, what secrets still lie hidden beneath the stone and the earth? As we stand on the grounds of Lochmariacar, gazing across the sea, it's hard not to feel the weight of time pressing upon us. The stones that still remain, weathered and worn, hold within them centuries of history, mystery, and ritual. Each stone, each broken fragment, tells a story that transcends generations. Perhaps the true meaning of the Grand Menhir base is not to be found in the structure itself, but in the way it connects us to our ancestors, a bridge, not just of stone, but of time, linking us to a distant past that is still alive in the land and the sky above. Yet, there is more to this mystery than the physical remains. The Grand Menhir was once a towering symbol, an object of reverence, perhaps a marker in a vast ritualistic map of the cosmos. Could it be that its destruction wasn't just the loss of a monument, but a symbolic death, a message about the fleeting nature of belief, of power, and of civilization itself? It is possible that, in the collapse of this mighty stone, the people of Lochmariacar were acknowledging a change, a shift in the spiritual or cultural landscape that rendered their once sacred practices irrelevant in the face of time's relentless march forward. There is a compelling theory that the alignment of the stones at Loch Mariachwer is not only an astronomical chart, but a cosmological text, a map of the universe, perhaps even the stars themselves, recorded in stone. Could the Grand Menhir base have been a part of a larger, unseen structure, like a planetary calendar, a celestial wheel that helped guide the people in their daily lives? As the heavens above changed, so too did the people's connection to the earth beneath their feet. And when the great Menhir fell, it was more than just a physical collapse. It was a cosmic shift, a rupture in their perception of the world around them. In a world where we often look to the past for answers, the Grand Menhir base stands as a reminder that some mysteries may remain unsolved. The people who built this site were not only skilled engineers, they were deeply connected to the natural and spiritual world, attuned to the rhythms of the earth and the sky. But what did they know that we no longer do? What did they see in the stars that guided their hands to shape such monumental stones? Perhaps the answers are hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to rediscover them. Or perhaps, like the Menhir itself, these secrets are destined to remain just beyond our reach, a reminder of the mystery of life itself. And so, as we leave the windswept plains of Loch Mariachwer behind us, we are left with a sense of wonder, awe, and uncertainty. The stones, now scattered, fractured, and weathered by time, still seem to hum with the energy of the past. It is as if the Grand Menhir is not truly gone. It has simply been transformed, waiting for us to interpret its message. Perhaps it was always meant to stand in this way, both a symbol of our search for meaning and a reminder that the questions we ask may always outlast the answers.